The Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Right, welcome to the Thinking Tackle Podcast. We're live. How is it,
Good.
guys?
Very good, mate. Very good. Hurry up, because we've got pan of raisins in the middle of the table that we've got to open up.
Yeah, I know. How long are they going to last there for?
About 30 seconds. If it's down to me. Yeah.
Danny Fairbrass, Rob Kelly, welcome back on the show.
Nice to see you, Si. Thank you very much.
Yep. And Rooney as well.
Yeah, nice to be invited.
Adam Rooney, welcome on the show. You're normally on the other podcast, so
Yeah.
it's good to have you on ours.
Yeah, very honoured, very honoured.
Yeah, be a good mix. Good
Yeah.
mix of minds, I think.
Absolutely.
You know?
And the reason we've got Rooney on the show is because we're going to be talking about mindset, and we want to cut a match fishing perspective on
Absolutely.
what we're going to talk about.
The success or the winning mindset, and from being someone who used to really doubt themselves, who doesn't anymore. And I talk to a lot of the guru boys about that kind of thing, and a lot of them struggle with the winning mindset.
100%.
You know, if something goes wrong in the middle of the match, poor old Mikey, he's like snapped his pole and just like he smashed the whole thing to bits, didn't he? Or
Yeah,
something.
he's
He just
finished.
lost
What's that?
it.
Yeah, it's finished. So one of our sponsored anglers, Mikey Williams, he did a guru podcast not so long ago. He's like an unbelievable angler, unbelievable person, really.
Yeah.
He's a cool guy, but when things go wrong, it goes wrong big time.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, he struggles with getting himself back in, and it can be the tiniest little things.
Mate, have your mic, so when you were turning to him, your
Yeah.
mic's still in front of you.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Is that all right there?
Yeah.
So
Like
is
that,
this
yeah.
is this something that he's trying to address himself? I mean, he knows he's
Well,
got anger management issues, or he loses.
What
it a
did he
little bit during
actually do?
matches.
Tell us through what actually happened.
So there's been many scenarios with Mikey, but one of the scenarios was big competition, everything going well, catching fish. His pole, he's hooked a big fish. It's gone into the weeds. Pole snapped.
And what are these worth? These poles?
3-4 grand.
Right.
But the biggest problem is that
He can't finish the match.
yeah, a lot of people have 2 poles, so they've got a spare. But I think Mikey had broke his previous pole, so he was down to 1. And typical, the section that he hasn't got to replace is broken. So yeah, you can bodge it and get round. You can telescope them, but obviously the length's changed. Then it's just a massive headache.
Length changes, so
Yeah.
your spot has to change because you can't fish
Exactly
effectively, or
that,
you've got
yeah.
more line
So,
off the end
yeah,
of it.
so basically everything he's got in fashion and how he's working has already gone.
He's got problems, basically.
Yeah, has
Right.
gone bang. So
And how did the course of the match sort of change for him after that?
well, you lose your thinking, your plan for the whole thing. Everything's up in the air. It's like someone's nicked his lines, and
Right.
he's starting again and
How did he react?
badly.
Yeah, what
So
actually
he
happened?
smashed the rest of his pole, I think, or smashed some other sections, rushing and panicking what to do next, because he's got fish waiting for him to be caught. He was probably there or thereabouts leading the way, and now all of a sudden there's a massive roadblock in the way. He's busted his pole. He's got to get back to that spot. He's got to do it quickly, and he's got to be efficient, but he can't get his head together to sort it out. So he's done. It's game over.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's gone from almost winning it to nowhere.
Yeah, probably going to win it to probably just going nowhere. So it's like falling off your bike. He's not getting back on. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So it's about if you've got a calm, collected. Like I would say, Rob, that you're a very calm, collected
Yeah.
guy from my experience of you.
Thank you very much.
Very comfortable in your own skin, which we would hope, being the sort of originator of the Thrive program. But yeah, I couldn't imagine you doing that, Lou, having a flap, and you can't have a flap when you're flying, can you?
No.
You know, so.
Well, you
Because you know he on the first podcast he flew here and then
remember you
flew
coming to
home
say-
in the same day like James Bond.
That's
on his
amazing.
own. Yeah.
That's what I said, Rooney. He's got a load of stewardess in nice little dresses serving him martinis all the way here.
Sounds good
It's a
to me.
very small plane, Toby.
We can fantasize a little bit. What about you then, Dan? How do you think you would react in that situation?
I would have thrown my toys out the pram, and there would have been loads of F's and C's getting thrown around, and it would have done me. I would have done my own head in and lost it. That's what I probably would have been like, because you all know when I'm a great watch on Thinking Tackle, because you see I wear my heart on my sleeve and you see the highs and lows, and people love to see me going through it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great to see the lows, and then the story's great to go to a high where I actually end up getting on the fish and landing them and what have you, having had days and days of things going wrong. And I'm not saying I'm not like that still, because when you're filming a thinking tackle, you've got thousands of pounds worth of equipment and personnel behind you, and it's all on you to make this or not make it. So it's a different level of pressure to actually a fishing session. And I haven't done any any filming sessions. Actually, I've done one. I did when I fished at Broome last year on the thinking tackle with Daryl. I was in a very good place mentally, and I still had all that stuff going on, and my knee was blown up. I couldn't kneel down on the knee that I normally hold fish on, so I had to do it the other way round, which is really difficult. It's like hitting a golf ball left-handed if you're right-handed or whatever. Just picking a fish up. Normally, you put one knee down and you rest your sort of wrist on that knee, and I couldn't do it because I couldn't put any weight on that knee because my immune system had attacked it. But I still went through and did the thing. Had 19 fish in 4 days or whatever. Absolutely caught the biggest mirror in the lake, and it was a breeze. The whole shoot was an absolute breeze, because I made all the right decisions. Because I think if you're in a very comfortable place and you're confident in your abilities and everything, but really up until very recently, a year maybe, I wouldn't have said I was a good angler. I would have said, I'm sort of, I'm up there, but I'm not in the top echelons. I couldn't acknowledge that I was good, which, as Tobe said, was like laughable.
It's crazy.
For people outside of your sort of my sphere of friends would just not be able to believe it. Even my mates wouldn't be able to believe it. But really, I'm unstoppable if I'm doing well.
Yeah.
But as soon as it goes wrong, my head's down, or it used to be down, and very difficult to recover. I remember I caught at Gigantica when we were filming for one of the free DVDs. So you're talking about we used to produce 200,000 to 300,000 DVDs and give them away across the whole of Europe. So it's a big deal. And we did it on my lake, and I caught the biggest fish in the lake on Thursday night. I caught the biggest fish in the lake. The lake's called Gigantica, and the fish is called the Giant. Because it's the biggest one in the lake. Caught it 72 pound, mega amazing carp, right? And the next night, I lost what I now know as a fish called fudgies, which I eventually caught, which was an upper 60 or a 70 the next night. And on the way home, all I could think about, there's Giant there. Look, well done, Tobe.
Go on, Tobe.
The Giant.
There you go.
That is a. We got to net 90 pound, didn't it?
Look,
that one?
70 pound, and just got a perfect mouth.
That's
massive.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's good skills, that Tobe.
So we don't mess about.
Yeah,
Look at your hair there, Danny.
I know, mate.
Look how young
That's
Gummy
Tom.
is.
That's Tom who just came in. The guy with the mask on.
Right.
That's him with the blonde hair.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah.
God, doesn't he look different,
Oh,
don't
he's
Yeah.
just a bit of hair now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Background's miles too close. They're taking the pictures on the wrong cameras. It's just like, oh my God, I know so much more than I knew then.
That was a hell of a fish as well,
It was
wasn't
a hell of a carp. Went on to be 90 pound.
The Giant.
But that's Gigantica. So that's.
You were in
that's
Alcatraz there, were you?
No, that was on Coast Point.
Oh, was it?
Look at the colour of the lake.
Let's just enjoy this. Look at that. That is a fucking creature, man. Look at it. Look, they've got rid of the leaf on the tail. Good.
How long ago was that, Dan?
2011. Does it say?
Rob, are you impressed with that?
I am impressed with that.
Look, now I'm talking to camera while I'm holding 72 pounds of like a living bar of soap, and I'm managing to do it.
Look at him.
Get in now.
Did it get to
Look how wide angle
I
that's
know.
filmed. That's horrible.
Did it put on another? Did it put on nearly £20 more than that?
Put on nearly £20 more than that, yeah.
You just wonder
And
where it could put that weight on, don't you?
But
when
it
you
just
look
got
at
the
that?
whole thing got bigger. It was a
Yeah.
male as well. It was a
Yeah.
male, so it didn't fluctuate in weight.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, so the next night in that swim, I lost fudgies, and I still remember it to this day. It was going through the other two lines that were left out there, because you've got 3 rods out fishing. It was going through the other 2 lines, and I put a bit more pressure and the hook pinged out, and it was a massive mirror like that with next to no scales on it, and it had to be fudgies. And all I could think about on the way home, bearing in mind that's our biggest filming project, and I've had the biggest fish in the lake, was the one I lost.
Yeah.
That's all I thought about. There was no relish in the achievement or anything at all, because I was a classic perfectionist.
Yeah.
So I'd set really, really high standards for myself, because if I achieved them, then I wasn't worthless anymore. And what happens when you set ridiculously high standards? You hardly ever achieve them. So you're just confirming that you're worthless all the time.
What's this perfection thing, Rob, where there are three types of perfectionists? There's the one, so you've got an exam and you've got three different people. One person decides...
So Can we
Yeah, we
get
can
involved with the Panerazing? You talk, Willie. All right.
Yeah, well, that's going to be gone, isn't it?
Because I've had these before from Boulangerie Jed in Blackheath, and now
This week's podcast is sponsored by Boulangerie Jed.
Well, that'd be all right,
I'll tell you
Joe,
what,
wouldn't it?
if I
From now on,
don't get a free breakfast out of them the next time I go in there.
Three types of perfectionists.
Right.
Well,
Back on, boys.
you've got the perfectionists so there's an exam. One of the perfectionists won't take the exam because they're worried about failing, and then they're not perfect. The other person takes the exam and fails and feels inadequate. The other person takes the exam and passes the exam, but always believes that they could do better. You need to get perfection mindset out of people.
Yeah, so that's that.
Aren't they all the same thing?
To me, that's the same thing. Okay, it's just different ways of dealing with it.
Yeah.
So a perfectionist is essentially someone that's running away from essentially feeling shit. At some point in their life, normally in their childhood, they felt really low or inadequate about something. It doesn't have to be everything, but about something. And they hate that feeling, and I want to get away from feeling shit. I can't stand that. I want to get away from that. So they try really, really hard to do something really, really good. And because they're essentially always running away from something, it's never going to be enough. So you aim for like 100%. And in a way, that's not that bad, right? You need to do that. If you're a surgeon, you don't want someone who's not a perfectionist, right? When the guy was cutting open my spinal cord, I wanted the perfectionist, right?
Absolutely.
But the other thing about perfectionists is they don't just aim ridiculously high. They've also got black and white thinking, which means it's either great or it's terrible. It was lovely, it's horrible. It was the best ever, it was the fucking worst ever. So then you got someone who sets... Dan and I could go for the same.
That's an all or nothing person.
All or nothing. All or nothing.
I'm an all or nothing. I'm in love or I'm not in love.
Yeah.
Like whatever. I'm a massive carp angler or I'm not.
Yeah.
That sort of.
You're massive what? Sorry.
Carp angler.
All right. Sorry. It's turn me up a bit. Tony, missed that. But so with the black and white, this all or nothing thinking, you could aim for we could both be doing the same thing. We could both be real carp fishermen, right? I know clearly he is, right? And we're both going for 95%. He gets 90% and feels like an absolute failure. I'm only aiming for 70% and I get 75 and I feel brilliant. And yet I've scored significantly less than him, but I feel great. So the thing about perfectionists is to realize first of all that you are a perfectionist. Are you always putting yourself down? Are you always... Is that script running through your mind? I've got to get this. This has got to work. Or else something bad's going to happen. The idea that if I don't catch this fish now, it's all going to be over. Something terrible is going to happen. That script is perpetuating that thing. So you want to focus on... You said this brilliantly yesterday, Dan, in the car. You said that you focus on what you can do and don't worry about what you can't do. All I know is if I'm in the right place with the right rod, the right reel, the right bait, the right everything, if I'm doing all I can do, then that's it. I don't need to worry about anything else.
Yeah.
And so on reflection, then, how would your mindset change now compared to how it was when you caught the giant?
Well, if I can give another example, because I think carp anglers will be able to relate to this, that are perfectionists and that where it isn't serving them. I was at Wellington Country Park. I was in the middle of a spring campaign. I had 3 40s, UK 40s. Bearing in mind, most UK anglers catch 140 in a year, like they're happy. There's some people that catch more than that, but this is 10, 15 years ago as well. I caught 3 in one session. And I came into work, and James Armstrong worked for us at the time. And he said, "Bloody hell, Dan, that's amazing. You've had that one and that one, like sought after fish as well." I said, "Yeah, but I should have had 5." That's what I said. So I couldn't even process this thing. And if you're that sort of angler where even though you've caught one and your mates are all raving about it and you're just focusing on the one that you lost or there was a better opportunity and you could have done more, that is perfectionism. you know, if people don't know what it is. But what I've learned through doing the training that Rob does is if you focus on the effort that you put in rather than the end result, if you put in the maximum effort that you could put in, you can still be happy with yourself, because no one can do more than their best. You're trying to control an uncontrollable thing, i.e. the weather and a living creature called a carp.
That
right?
swims.
That swims. So you can't dictate where they're going to be, how much they're going to eat, what they want to eat on that particular day or anything. You can't control it. You can give it your best shot. And if you put the maximum amount of effort in, which I always do, you can drive away from that blank session happy, patting yourself on the back, happy with I could have done no more. But also, if you add on to that, what have I learned from that session? Well, I've learned don't fish that swim in the northerly. I've learned that bloke turned up for a night and caught one in a swim that I'd completely written off. So I've learned that's worth looking at this time of the year. I've learned that I shouldn't put that much bait in, or I should have put more bait in. You know, somebody caught one on a bottom bait and I fished a pop-up. You know, maybe I should have been fishing with bottom baits. There's loads of things that I've learned that I can take into my next session. And I drive home now happy as Larry. Even if I've blanked, my 2.5, 3 hour journey back from Frampton is now I've got a massive beaming smile on my face and I've blanked. Right? Whereas before, I would be absolutely like tearing myself to shreds. You run a fishing tackle company, you've got all the best bait, all the latest tackle, stuff that's not even out yet. You can ring Darryl whenever you want and get advice off of him, and you've still blanked. You're useless, you know? All those things, all those advantages no one else has got. But that doesn't matter a jot if the weather's shit and the fish aren't feeding, or you pick the wrong swim, or all them advantages mean nothing, you know? And it's coming to terms with that and realising that, and patting yourself on the back for the effort you put into something rather than the result. And that follows in, even me now with Violet, I don't give a shit how she compares to every other kid in her school. If she tried her hardest, that's good enough, you know? Yeah. And we were all grew up with the kid who gets the A star is the best kid in the class.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, and he might not put any effort into getting that A star because he's naturally gifted at maths or whatever it is, you know? But if you tried really hard, you cannot ask any more of your kid than doing their best.
Can I give you a non-angling example?
Yeah. Okay.
Which gives it perspective, right? So a mate of mine was going for a job in Cambridge. It's either Microsoft or something like that, or Google or something. There was 1,000 people go for this job, and there's only one job. So if everyone going for that job is going to praise himself or be happy on the outcome, whether they got the job or not, you're already going to have 999 really unhappy people, aren't you? Because only one person can get the job, right? So I said to him, focus on what you can do, on the variables you can affect, not anything. Make sure you look great on the day. Make sure you've learnt about the company. Make sure you've rehearsed the speech and you've visualised. You've done everything you can do, and then praise yourself on that. I did really well. I looked good. I sounded good. I had a little joke. There's lots of nodding. They got it. They got me. Great. I've done everything I could do. Well done, Rob. It's a bonus if I get the job. But actually, I've done really well. I've acquitted myself brilliantly on the day. That's it. I'm happy regardless. And then all of those people go away happy.
Very few people do that, do they?
Very.
Well,
most people are focused on whether they get the job or not, and if they didn't, they're a failure. Aren't they? And that's wrong, isn't it?
100%.
Because it leaves you feeling disappointed on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's the difference between having a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fixed one is the smart kid that's always used to passing all of his exams. It's a given that he's going to, and when he fails or when he doesn't pass, it's absolute devastation. Kenton Cole, the mountaineer, a really good analogy about people that climb in Everest. He would rather have clients that have faced adversity, so they know what adversity feels like, because they're going to feel adversity when they're going up a mountain. Yeah. You know,
is that like Tobe having Damien as a dad?
That's
exactly that sort of thing.
That's worse.
That's worse than Everest.
Yeah, you could skip up Everest, couldn't you, mate?
Do you know what he said?
With the training that you've had.
The example I give everyone about my old man, he said to me, well, you'll know this, Dan, because you know what his sense of humour is like.
Yeah.
He said to me, when I went to university, he went, Tobe, do not come home unless you get a first. Straight down the barrel into my eyes. I laughed like that, little nervous laughter like Rooney. He didn't smile. He meant that.
Yeah.
Luckily, I got
You
first and was allowed to come home.
you get the eyes off of Damien.
Yeah.
He's like General Zod out of Superman 2. He can like set things on fire with his stare, can't
yeah.
he? You know, so yeah, you could skip up Everest, mate, couldn't you?
I'd like to give it a go.
Yeah.
We'll go out together, Tobe, if you want.
We'd do that. I actually watched just on Everest.
We do love him, by the way. It's not all bad, is it? We do love him.
Yeah.
Like
He's all
at my
right.
wedding, Tobe, he was sitting on my lap, kissing me on the face, saying, "We love Dan. We love him," because he's so drunk. All of the 1,000-yard stare was all gone.
Well, you love each other,
know?
Dan. You love each other that much. You came to the Christmas party in the same shirt.
We came
didn't
to
you,
the
a few
Christmas
years
party.
ago? That was entertaining.
I turned up at
wasn't
the Christmas party,
What's that
welcoming
planned?
everyone in, and Damien comes in the same. I'm like, you are fucking joking, aren't you? it was like twins, wasn't
it was
it? He was like
brilliant.
he was the Danny DeVito, wasn't he?
it? And you didn't organise that. That
He
wasn't
didn't
planned.
organise that.
Everybody was
He's never-
asking me.
Where
did
was
you
it? All
plan
Saints
that?
or somewhere?
All Saints. He's never gonna be wearing the same thing as me again, because since I've really I'm firing on all cylinders. I sent off a shirt yesterday to our clothing guy, and he's going to have the same material made, and I'm getting a whole outfit in the material.
Yes.
There's no way, and not because I don't want to look like him at all.
Just imagine.
because he looks cool.
Do you text
But-
each other
but-
now before you go out? This is what I'm wearing tonight.
What are you wearing?
Send a little picture each.
Yeah.
But can you imagine, like the owner and the managing director both turning up in the same shirt? No one else turns up.
Yeah,
in the
but
same
I
clothes.
wore a shirt very similar to that for Ali's 40th, and Damien saw it there, and
Yeah.
I
had
like-
eyes on, and then it had a crane on it, and then not a crane picking up trucks, a crane, but the bird, and there was another one just like it. That I ended up getting, and he got the same. So,
Brilliant.
yeah. I got it first.
Just getting back to Mikey before then.
Yeah.
So the situation that he was in was completely different. So he reacted badly to a situation.
Yeah, it's a bit different in the scenario that we are, because we're in a competition form. So you're doing your fishing for yourself as such, and trying to do that, but they are either doing it for an individual to
It's
win an
like
event.
filming. Fishing
Yeah,
a competition is the same pressure as filming,
So
isn't
there's a
it?
lot of pressure on, and sometimes when things go bad, they're a positive as well. Because
Plus, you've travelled 2-3 hours to get there.
Mikey, especially because he's in the deepest, darkest Wales.
Yeah,
in the valley.
and this is you've got an 80-person match, and you've got to win to get into the final of Fishermania, which is 50 grand for the winner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So if you're winning and then suddenly you're losing, you
Yeah.
imagine the
Bearing in-
what's going on in your head,
Fishermania final.
because
Yeah.
because something has let you down, a product, and you haven't got the spare one because you broke that and
Previously.
couldn't be bothered to get another one in between, or couldn't afford to get another. Then you're just beating yourself up, aren't
Yeah.
you? Rather than going, right, I'm just going to fish on on a fishing rod and fish a waggler, or
Yeah.
you change the style of fishing and make do, and it's the guys that can adapt to anything that's thrown at them. They're the guys that
Yeah.
are the champions, aren't
Okay.
they?
Yeah, they are.
You know?
One of the hardest things for Mikey in that situation, just to fill you in with a picture. So there's probably 20 qualifiers a year. He was probably 8 or 10 deep. Bearing in mind these qualifiers are 150 to 100 pegs, say. So he's got to win that qualifier to get to the next stage. And obviously he's in a prime position after probably failing in the 8 previous. And the way you have to fish to win. So you don't fish to get the best out of your swim. You fish to try and do something that isn't achievable in 90% of the swims. But when you get that opportunity, you've got to take it. And
Right.
he had that opportunity there, waiting for him, leading the way, and then bang. So you can imagine.
It's not. They all say the guys that have won Fishermania, it's not the money.
No.
It's the prestige
Yeah.
of winning this match, because it's filmed. It's like a Sky cover it, and it's like
Yeah,
a
it's-
proper, like a massive competition, a big spectator thing. All the when they land the final fish and they've won, everyone be like,
Yeah.
there's thousands of people behind you watching you do it.
So
So the prestige is enormous,
The
isn't
prestige, I mean, the money hasn't changed. The Fishermania final's been the same for like 10, 15 years.
Okay.
The entrance money's doubled. Everything's doubled, but no one cares because it's not about that. It's about winning that Fishermania trophy.
it? Yeah. Have you won that? Ron?
No, not this week.
Have you got in the final?
No, I hardly ever fished it. I come second in a qualifier once. Again, I beat myself up all the way home that day. I was next to a bridge on a place called Heronbrook, and I had a crowd of people behind me all day, which is the worst thing ever. And
Because they're making loads of noise. And
making
it's
loads of
putting the
noise.
fish
You
off.
can hear them commenting about how you're fishing and stuff. And I didn't fish the venue a lot, so I found my own way. Anyway, I started catching fish by this bridge, under this bridge, catching barbel and stuff and carp, and I was really motoring. I knew there was another lad on a good peg that was pretty much going to be hard to beat, but I was in a good position. A few hours to go, and I'm quite a quiet person when I'm fishing, and 2 pleasure anglers that didn't know there was a match on come and stood on the bridge. So I went 40 minutes without a bite. They'd spooked the fish from under the bridge, but I kept on, and you got people moaning about it in the background. And anyway, I missed
A lot
out.
of pressure, that.
Yeah.
It's like playing snooker at the Crucible or whatever.
I
isn't
missed
it?
out by-
or
yeah.
or playing golf, hitting a driver with people all down the sides of you.
Yeah.
It's a lot, that, isn't it?
It is.
Especially when you don't have
You
it
are-
in your normal fishing. Look, is this a Fishermania?
That's
You're on fire today, son, aren't
I've
you?
had my coffee this
so
morning.
that's Andy,
Mr. Bennett.
Mr. Bennett, yeah.
Mr. Bennett.
This was his winning fish, I think. Yeah, that was in the dying minutes, I think, of that Fishermania final. He's the coolest angler you will
Mate,
ever
he's so
meet.
laid back, isn't he?
So how? I mean, the differences between
Like,
maybe
he got hit by a car on the motorway, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Yeah.
And dragged his knee under the wheel arch, and he said all the damage came on the other side of him when they had the basically the shock got running through his body, and couldn't walk for how long?
It is a long time.
And then he's won 2 Fishermanias back to back since then, hasn't he?
yeah.
Like,
So
that's
Right,
grit,
so
isn't it?
Well, so if he were here now and you were asked him, he would say that he would not be putting the same pressure on himself that you guys are talking
No,
about,
he-
right? He wants to win, but there's a difference between wanting to win and putting yourself under ridiculous pressure, like, if this doesn't happen, X, Y, Z, I'm never going to do
Yeah.
it. People are always going to think of me like this. People are never going to consider me The other thing is he's probably got good self-esteem in other areas of his life where it wouldn't matter that much if it dropped a little bit in that area.
But also he survived a fatal, like a very, very
Which gives
serious accident.
perspective.
Not fatal, but a very serious accident. And it's like, well, losing this ain't going to be any worse than laying in that bed for however
That's
many
right,
months.
yeah.
And it's what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right, and that's what he was talking about just now, and that's perspective, right? You don't need to have a near-death experience to get that.
No.
Just tell yourself, hang on a sec, why am I putting myself under this much pressure?
Yeah.
I'll get another shot of this. It doesn't matter. I'm still alive. I caught great fish before. There'll be other competitions. My girlfriend still loves me. There's food in the fridge.
Yeah.
Don't wind myself up about it.
Yeah.
What's
Shit
my-
happens.
Do you know what though? When I used to, because you used to say that to me, and that didn't. The thing that worked for me was realizing that I couldn't have done any more. That I should pat myself on congratulate myself for the effort I put in.
Yeah.
That's the thing that really spoke to me. And also, what have I learned from that situation? And they were the things that really, like telling myself that to get perspective, I found that really, really difficult because I was so utterly immersed in success and had been all my life. I found it really difficult. But the learning process and the effort and patting yourself on the back for that really spoke to me.
But that is
And
success, isn't it?
What?
If you've learnt something from it and you processed it well, it's a different type of
Yeah,
success.
but it made complete sense to me that I can't do any more than my best.
Yeah.
It's impossible. I can't do any more than my best. So I should still be proud of what I've put into it and not beat myself up.
Agreed.
And and that's what really spoke to me about it.
So I just want to know what Mikey's perspective is after that match now, and whether if you've
The
spoken
same,
to him
innit?
about how he would.
Yeah,
how would-
so Mikey's a brilliant person, but he will be still thinking about that to this day. But he struggles with that because he knows how little the opportunity is to get to that moment, and he will get there again because he puts his whole year's fishing into getting into that final. So his whole year and his money and how he goes fishing and when he goes to work all works around getting in them big finals. That's what he wants to do. So
That man's still working full time and everything as well, isn't he?
He works full time. He's got a young family. He's travelling. He's probably nearly twice as much as any other angler on the circuit.
Because he lives in Wales.
Because where he lives, yeah. I mean, he has a few lads that he goes with from Wales, but it's like an hour journey to their house to pick them up or to go together. It's ridiculous.
In the valleys.
So here's a point,
Yeah,
right?
in the
valleys.
So how much you beat yourself up is directly related to the self-esteem or the amount of esteem you are feeling at that moment, right?
Yeah.
So if your self-esteem doesn't go down, which yours doesn't now, okay,
No.
that's why you don't, and that's why you're not going, oh, you dickhead, why didn't you do this? Because actually you don't feel like a dickhead. You
No.
feel, oh, I did everything I could, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So another thing to do for the chappie you're talking about is to make sure you've got good self-esteem in other areas other than just angling, right? Because you know, the whole Georgie Best thing, right? If your only self-esteem comes from scoring goals and you're not scoring goals, you're going to go
like the
down.
comedians that commit suicide.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
because the only self-esteem comes from making people laugh, and when you don't, that's the end.
Yeah.
We've talked
You know?
before about special forces. All those guys that were in Bravo 20 with Andy McNabb in his original unit, they've all topped themselves.
Really,
All of them have topped themselves.
Because-
the skydiver jumped out without a parachute. The one that turned to God, I think, gassed himself something.
Is that because they feel worthless because they're not doing what they were
Because the only
programmed
thing
to do?
Perfect. The only thing they got their self-esteem from was how good they were at their job.
Yeah.
Okay, and now they're not doing that job anymore. Where do you get your self-esteem from?
yeah,
You can't get
Whereas
it all from catching that fish, because you might not catch a fish.
yeah.
You've got to get some of it from being a good dad, being
Yeah.
a good husband.
But that's what the process in your positives
Yeah,
techniques. where
realising that you don't have to only get it from that. And that's the trouble also. If you zoom in too much, you lose that perspective. I'm not a terrible person. Hang on a sec. I'm still a great husband, a great dad. I'm still really good at my job, and my friends and family love me. This was just a fish that I didn't catch.
Yeah.
There'll be other times.
Yeah, I think the family thing, especially for me, I mean, my fishing's changed over the last sort of 10 years. I don't fish at the highest level I probably could, because for me, everything has to be perfect. So if I'm fishing a big event,
Right.
everything has to be done. Everything has to be prepared.
There's no point competing unless you can feel you can win it.
Because I'll be sat there knowing that I'm not giving it my 100%.
Yeah.
But now I cherry pick because of the time I've got with a young family. So the events I do, I put 100% in. And whether I do good or bad, that journey home, I'm going to see my little boy. So nothing else matters.
Puts it into perspective.
Yeah, it
doesn't
does.
The sooner you're out the comp, the sooner you get home to see him.
Yeah, exactly that. Like on Sunday, for example, I fished the Gloucester Canal, which is a horrendous venue, really hard. I caught some fish. I defaulted my section. I've caught 5 pound of fish, 1 bream, some
What
tiny
does
little fish.
defaulted mean?
So basically, the person that won my section framed in the match. They were in the top 3, so I got the section money by default.
So you were second in your section.
Second in my section,
Right.
yeah. So which is okay. And on a team match, when you're fishing for a team, it would have been great. But on that event where you need to win your section to qualify, pointless. Might as well have chucked back. No point in weighing in.
Right.
So, but finished the match. I weighed in. A lot of people just went because it was Father's Day, wanted to get home. I thought, well, I've been here, I've paid, I'm going to weigh in. Won my section by default. Happy days. Walking back, not thinking about the fishing at all, thinking about hope I'm going to get to see little one before he goes to bed when I get back home. and
Because
stuff
you
like
hadn't put all of your self-esteem eggs in the same basket.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And I was looking forward to that. So, yeah, the journey home, all your mates ring you, oh, that was terrible. Well, you know, I've only got 2 qualifiers left, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm going home to see my little one.
Yeah. But this process in your positive technique, it's something that people can do whether they go through and do 5 or whether they don't. And there's 4 stages to it. Am I right? What was the positive experience? So let's pick a non-fishing one. So that I've done. Taking my little girl to the park.
Yeah.
Right. So the positive experience was that. Why was it a positive experience? Well, she's so full of life. We were looking for fairies. Like her imagination is amazing. We talked about trees and all that sort of thing, and it's just brilliant. What would you say to somebody else who'd had that experience? So if your mate took their little girl to the park and they told you about it, what would you say to him? You're a brilliant dad. You spend wonderful time with your daughter.
Yeah.
And what have you learned? Even if you feel shit, take your little girl to the park.
Exactly.
It's an amazing
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Like, so if you do enough of them, I did ones about great sex with Soph. I did ones about a amazing show at the weekend at Zwalla.
Yeah.
I did ones about coming in here, being a really great leader and inspiring people.
Uh-huh.
I did ones about great sessions where I caught loads of fish and fished really well. So it's, training in the gym when I really didn't feel like it. I'm waiting for a diagnosis of bowel cancer, yet I still went in the gym and smashed the shit out of it, because I'm going to live past it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to live like I'm going to die. I'm going to live like I'm going to live. That's a positive experience, isn't it? Something to congratulate yourself, because putting everyone knows when you go to the gym, it's all up there, isn't it?
Always.
Whether you're gonna smash the shit out of it or not is up there.
Always.
It's like going for a run as well, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Sometimes you run brilliantly, and
yourself.
then when you're not in the right frame of mind,
pushing yourself
So just
is all
to
up there.
clarify why that's important, right? Because people either have low self-esteem or are perfectionists don't do that very well. They don't see the little things. They don't see
no.
those other things. It's all on my, everything's based on whether I get this fish or not. Therefore, if they don't, they feel completely flat.
Yeah.
So if you just get in the habit then of realizing all the other positive things that happen in your life, and that you get loads of self-esteem from seeing your boy and being a good dad and doing this and baking cakes and blah, 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 whatever. This is one ball that you drop. That's all.
Yeah.
It's annoying, right? It can be annoying.
Yeah,
it's
it
annoying.
is.
I really wanted to do well this weekend, but my rod snapped. What can I do?
Yeah,
Exactly.
like losing a fish like at the net that you really want to catch. I'm not saying that I'm not absolutely fucking
it's gonna-
mortified in
it's
that
gonna come
moment,
back to you.
but it only lasts a few minutes now.
Yeah.
Did let us down,
where
though.
it used to be days or weeks or months. It would last for. It lasts a few minutes. I'm like, it's only a carp. I'll catch it again, and it'll be bigger.
So what do you do then?
That's if anybody
do
that's
you allow
fished with
yourself
me,
a certain amount of time to?
No. I just put it into perspective that it is only a carp, whereas before it was life and death. Because my whole self-esteem was based on whether I could catch him or not. My whole value of myself was, can I catch that carp? And if I don't catch it, I'm worthless. But now it's a tiny bit of my whole life. And whilst I don't fish any less hard, I'm not. I say I have exactly the same intensity, but I get over the downsides really, really quickly now. And if you talk to anybody that film with me, like the crew are like, if he loses one, just don't be anywhere near him.
Just hide.
Just the blast radius is about 200 yards. Just like keep away until I come back walking around with a cup of tea and I've got a smile, and then, but don't. Like before that, I've just lost one and like, need to do a rig section now, Dan. I'm like, are you fucking joking? Like looking at them like they're the devil. Like, no, mate.
No.
I'm not saying I can do it, but it just takes me a lot less time now. I couldn't still do it straight afterwards.
No,
but
you need your
a
time
few
to-
minutes on your own, have a cup of tea. Don't really fucking matter. Let's crack on.
Yeah.
So
You know?
if self-esteem and perfectionism isn't a good enough reason to do it, I'll give you another reason, right? So if you think of you're aiming for 100%, right? If you go for 90%, you're no less likely to get it than 100, right?
Yeah.
All the stress comes in that last 10%, okay? And you're never going to choke at a sport if you're aiming for 90%.
No.
Okay, the choking
You're gonna be
comes
decent,
when
aren't
you
you?
say, I've got to hit this ball. This is my last shot with the club, right? I've got to get this ball over there, or
Yeah.
I've got to return this serve. There are countless examples, aren't there, of people choking at the last minute in any sort of sport because you're so overloading yourself with pressure, you won't notice that you got your foot over the bag handle, you're going to trip, or you put the wrong line or too much bait on something because you're so zoomed in on something else. Just take a step off a little bit, just a tiny bit. Your performance won't be affected, but you'll be thinking much more clearly.
But we're always programmed to say, give it 100%, give it
Yeah.
110% all the time.
Do you
aren't
know
we?
what as well? I think it's like I find myself in this situation a few times, not so much now because I just take it for what it is. But say I finished the match, walking back with my trolley, going to see my boy. I think, well, Andy Bennett wouldn't be thinking what I'm thinking now. If he's had a bad match, he will be planning and trying to do more, for the next one. He'd be bigging it up and my mindset's different to his, but yet he's winning all the time. So I think it puts a lot of pressure on you, like especially like Mikey, for example. He will be feeling pressure that he's not going away and analysing the information like Andy Bennett will for
or
the next
Will
one.
Raisin or somebody like that.
He
who's
thinks
like
I'm doing something wrong here because I feel it as well sometimes. I feel it like I should really probably take this a little bit more seriously. Do you know what I mean? But it means so much to him to get there. So I think that puts him under a lot of pressure that he feels.
They're high achievers, aren't they?
Yeah,
Perfectionists are high achievers.
They are.
But they may not necessarily enjoy
Don't forget,
the achievement. That's
there's nothing wrong with going for 100%, right?
Yeah.
It's when you load it with, and if it doesn't work, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Or you're a failure. It's that bit that adds the extra bit of pressure. You can work really, really hard, as you do now. You do everything you can to make it work.
Yeah.
And you've won.
actually more. I would say I actually do more because I know now when I should be in another spot and I'm not. And rather than having this battle, you need to move. I just do it now.
Yeah.
We're like, every decision you make in a match is the right one, and you swap from out there to down there at just the right moment, and you catch a bonus fish, and then you go back out there, and it all just like I just bossed that absolutely. That happens to me all the time now.
That's Steve Ringer.
That just happens to me all the time because I'm not clouded by if I don't get it right, I'm shit. I'm a failure. I'm not clouded by
You've got
that
clarity
at all.
of thinking
The clarity
now.
of
Yeah. See it all.
thinking.
Yeah.
It just, you
And
know.
there's a
it's-
difference between intensity, isn't there, and effort as well. I mean, intensity can create a fog, can't it?
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, whereas
Mate, I
you can still...
try too hard. I used to try too hard all the time in my angling, especially if we're filming, and you overcook it.
Yeah.
You know, and you can end up. And I've fished with people that have massively tried too hard, and I've seen it, and like just so obsessed on looking good in front of the camera, and totally and utterly fucked their swim twice. 2 different sessions this guy did it. It doesn't represent us anymore, and it was all about how he looked. His self-worth was everything to do with people's opinion of him.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that in this world today, isn't there? With,
It's way
with
too
social
much.
media
Putting
and
a lot of
reality
pressure on
TV
yourself,
yeah.
and all them
Yeah.
stars. You know, there's that. We were talking about that poor lad who was in Love Island. So he's obviously gorgeous, right? On Love Island, he's ended up hanging himself in the local woods,
Yeah.
like 20 whatever years old.
Whole life ahead of him.
Whole life ahead of him. That's so sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and so savable as well.
Yeah.
And his self-esteem was entirely linked to what people thought of him.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Must have been. You know.
Rob, we hear people say all the time, you say you're trying too hard, but it's sometimes hard to identify when you actually are trying too hard. Are there things to look out for?
Yeah, you'll know straight away because there's some negative voice in your head. There's that negative thing on your shoulder. If you're trying too hard, you'll be talking about failure a lot in your mind. It'll be, you know, if you really, really push yourself, it'll be, if I don't get this, X is
Yeah,
going to happen.
I know
Or
that.
I can't go home with an empty bag. You know, I can't go home and tell my mate, you know, I'm just waiting. You just mentioned the phone calls. For the phone calls I'm going to get on the way home saying, oh, how'd you do today, Dan? This
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Let everyone
So
down.
if you're thinking about how bad you're going to feel when it all goes Pete Tong, you're trying too hard. You should be just loving being out by the lake, enjoying yourself. A bit of pressure to do well, and get everything right. But actually, you don't need pressure to do that.
There's a lot of this now in carp fishing. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
It's all about the
Yeah,
journey.
we've got a
like
podcast,
that. And
haven't we,
I used to go, fuck that. It's all about what you catch. It's all about that 40-pounder in the net. And whilst that is a massive part of it, it's not all about that for me anymore, which it used to be. And I love being outside. So it wasn't entirely about that. I've always loved being outside, but now I have a newfound appreciation. I was at Stanton this winter gone in December. There's one other guy actually, I think, on the other bank. And first thing in the morning, all the robins and the blue tits are all in the tree up there, all tweeting away. And I'm standing by my rods, looking out at my lines that are all just sitting perfectly. And I've not even caught one. I was in tears because it was so gorgeous. And there's all the cars going to work. And I'm thinking, you lot haven't got a clue about this part of life. You're never going to experience this. You're just in the rat race of getting to work on time. And I'm doing this on like a Tuesday morning. Just absolutely amazing, you know.
So that
and
you're
that was
talking
without
about-
having catching one.
You're talking about flow. You know about flow, yeah? So flow is like when you're in that zone, I'll click my fingers right, and everything's right. You've
Yeah.
prepared well, it's set up well, you're feeling good.
I call it in the zone.
In the zone,
Yeah.
in the zone, flow, right? You can't have flow, right, if you're a perfectionist and you're trying way too hard.
No,
That's the opposite
definitely
to
not.
flow.
Definitely not.
You create
flow to it,
turbulence.
is there?
That's
Yeah.
that's just pressure and being uncomfortable and
Nothing's
the
ever
weight
good
of the
enough.
world on your shoulders and all that sort of thing.
Well, you said it
know?
yourself. You've done it right. You're sitting there, the lines are out, you're in the right place, the weather, you got the birds, you know, there's
But at that point, I didn't even care if I was in the right place. I mean, I was about to move because the bloke over there caught one, and I was about to move and I didn't, and I was sort of thought I'll have a slow pack up. He's not going yet, and then I had a bite on my left hand rod, and then I didn't recast that rod, and then the middle rod went an hour later, and the next rod went, and I had 3 that morning. Up to 34 pound in December on my first session on there. I'd never fished it in the winter like that before, you know. And that most people don't catch 3 in a winter, and I caught 3 in the morning. But I didn't care before I caught the first one, you know.
Yeah.
I was just loving it that much, and I wanted to move because he'd caught one and I hadn't. And I thought that's a better spot, you know. So I wasn't just going to lap it up for 3 days and not catch anything. I wasn't camping. I wasn't a wildlife photographer.
You just weren't putting yourself under any pressure.
But I was just enjoying being there, and it's that's a lovely experience compared to the pressure of I need to perform every
Yeah.
single time.
This
you know?
doesn't count unless I catch something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would that be noticeable then if we looked at you a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, compared to now, if you were looking at yourself?
all
on the
my mates
same
are like, what the fuck has got into you? Like, come out number 7 in Gigantica out of 10, which is a
That's all
crappy
right.
draw.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, I know exactly what I'm doing. Like going to swim that hasn't had done a bite for 3 weeks. People have been in there for 3 weeks solid and not caught one. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to bait long, but I'm not going to fish long. I'm going to leave the bait until it sparks up and fish start jumping out over the top of it. I'm going to fish short for the first night, so I'm still fishing. I'm not gone on holiday and not even got the rods out. And I lost one on the first night on a snag I didn't know was there. And then the next night I went out long and I caught 3 that night, you know. And I nicked the fish off of one of my mates who wasn't fishing aggressively enough. And I nicked the fish off of him and ended up being top rod in a swim that hasn't done a bite for 3 weeks. And all my pals are like, what has got into you, son? You know? And I'm like, I just know I can do it, mate.
At what
I know I
previously?
can
So
do
what
it
would that
now.
what would that draw have looked like previously?
That would have been a throw in the ball,
right.
a
I'm
number
off.
7 ball.
That's it. I'm going home.
Like effing and blinding and just fish like a complete prick all week because my head was down and probably caught nothing. You know.
So also in that respect, we've talked before about coping skills.
Yeah.
Because you feel you can cope more now,
Yeah.
you don't respond to getting
Exactly.
a low draw
Yeah.
and all this kind of stuff, right? I can deal with this. I can make the best out of
Put
this.
a positive on
Yeah.
it, sort of thing.
So
I can make the best out of this situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is what you've done with the
absolutely. I
cancer.
just absolutely knew that. Yeah, absolutely knew I could cope with it. No, I'm. It's not am I catching? It's how many am I catching?
Okay.
I just had belief in my abilities and knew whatever. If I come out 10, I'm still having them, mate. There's just
Yeah.
There's 4 swims left to choose from, and I'll say to all the lads, right, I'm going to have that swim and that swim, and I'm going to move in between the 2 all week and bait one and fish the other, and vice versa, and I'll catch as many as the top rod out of the 2 shitty swims on the lake.
Yeah.
'Cause I know I will, and that's from the depths of despair that I've come out number 10 to it doesn't matter a jot.
And that
I'm having them.
confidence is calming, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you
I
make the
know
right.
it's going to happen.
You make the right decisions.
You're standing at the start line for a marathon, and you know you can do it, and you've done all the prep and everything. You're standing there calm at the beginning. Yeah, I got this. I got it.
Yeah.
If you haven't done enough training and you don't feel you got the skill set, you're standing there.
You
you're
haven't got
shitting
the
yourself.
evidence.
You haven't got the
You haven't got
evidence to back up your belief.
It's not just believing you're a good angler.
Yeah.
If you can, that's what processing your positives does. When you've had a great session, and that session at Gigantica was one of my positives, and it's on my phone now, and I can listen back to it, and it's me telling me I'm a good angler. You can't argue with yourself, can you?
No.
Can't, can you?
No,
it's
no.
impossible.
No.
Schizophrenics
and then
can argue with themselves.
But that's really powerful for the next time you go fishing,
Yeah.
and the next time, and it just builds it
Do you think as well that what comes to mind, like sometimes that happens to us? Sometimes if you draw a bad peg, but you're in a positive frame of mind, there's no pressure on you, because if you're on a good peg, people are expecting you to win.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, if you're on a bad peg and do well, then there's quite a
Yeah.
positive from that.
Yeah.
If more match anglers thought like that, it'd be a nicer place to be on the bank.
Yeah. If you're walking around right as a misery, you've normally got very high expectations in life, and
Yes,
they're not being
definitely,
met.
yeah.
If you're just grateful for the birds tweeting and the sun being out and the wind being southwesterly, you have a nicer day.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
then I used to be one of them guys who had such high standards and expected so much out of life that I was like a bear with a sore head a lot of the time, because I wasn't achieving the expectations I'd set for myself. And now my expectations, are just appreciating the little things, and the rest of it just seems to fall into
But those
place.
expectations, those wants, those goals were so high because you needed them to draw you out of
Yes.
the shitty feeling.
Yeah, crappy feeling.
Now
Yeah.
you don't have the crappy feeling. You don't need to. You don't need to
Yeah.
catch 10 fish every day to feel good.
Yeah, and you don't have to go back over and find what that crappy feeling was, and absolutely no, it doesn't even matter, that does it?
It's
just
irrelevant,
do the things that get you feeling great, and then the past doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you haven't got to drag it up and go through it all, and which is a lot of psychotherapy does, isn't it? Is talking about the past, and let's go into the past and understand
got
it,
the voice
man.
for it
And,
as well.
Yeah. But it is though,
Yeah.
isn't it? There is a lot of that, and this, whilst I think it's helpful to understand where it comes from if you can. It doesn't actually matter if you do the work to make yourself feel great today. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Rob, when
Yes.
my long-term goal in fishing is I'm going to start jumping in some matches as soon as possible.
I thought you were going to say my long-term girlfriend won't do
That's
this
what I
thing.
thought he was gonna say.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
I was
And
sweating a little bit.
Everyone's
then.
like, go on,
how
go on.
Yeah, how do I?
I was sweating a little
Yeah.
bit then.
Is there
so I
something
thought,
you can help me
I thought,
with
not
there?
my field, mate. Not my field. Wrong person.
Well, I was going to say, me and you are going to go for a beer, but you might get the wrong idea now.
All right.
No,
You're
we're
a good-looking
definitely gonna
fella.
Go for a beer.
Toby, especially if you tell him what you got your dad for Father's Day.
Oh, don't. I'm a bit upset about it. He still doesn't like
Do you
them.
know, Dan?
The pants, yeah. Yeah,
that?
bamboo
Everybody
cotton
knows.
pants. I'm going to get some. He
Oh,
sent
yeah.
me the link. Yeah.
Yes, Toby. Sorry.
Yeah.
mate.
Yes. I just want to say, where were you when I was competing in jiu-jitsu? Because some of the stuff that you're saying just would have been like so much help. From like, I used to get there on the mats, right? And my first competition, I got to the final. I didn't realise I was in the final until I was there.
Right.
The 5 fights I had before that, they were nothing because I wasn't anywhere near the final.
Yeah.
When you get to the final, shit's real then. That's like, oh, hang on, I could win the gold medal here.
Yeah.
And that was where it fell to pieces. And
Was
it
this
all
Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
yeah.
Okay.
So my question is, I'm wording it really poorly. How does somebody, I want to bring it back to fishing because that's kind of my new venture now. How do you prep yourself? You know,
Well, let's put it to you. No, let's do it jiu-jitsu. Let's do
Okay.
it for you
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there's loads of people who do martial arts who go fishing or
Yeah.
Yeah.
non-anglers will be listening. So
Yeah.
what's your question?
how do you prep your mindset there? What I'm trying to ask is, how do you keep control of, because when I got to the final, that's where the doubts came in.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the doubts in the 5-6 fights I had before that. How do you control?
So you
the
were
doubt?
loading the pressure on yourself, weren't you? Exactly as we were talking about just
Yeah.
now. You were thinking, "Fuck me, this is the final."
That's it.
You know,
Yeah.
I could win gold here,
Yeah, that's exactly
and
what I
that
did.
suddenly ramps up the pressure. You must have seen that tennis, Sharapova. She was minutes away from
Yeah,
winning
I remember
Wimbledon
that. Yeah,
years
yeah,
ago,
yeah.
and she suddenly thought, you can see it, and she talked about afterwards, "Fuck, I'm going to win this," and then cocked it up completely.
That's
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
what
So-
I'm getting at. And I bet it's the same for match anglers.
Yeah,
I bet
yeah.
it's a similar
But
situation.
exactly the same
any
thing.
competition,
Yeah,
anyone
anything.
who's competing.
Exactly what we just talked about. It doesn't matter. You're doing what you do. You know you're good at it. You know it well. All you can do is do your best, and maybe that means you'll win as well. Maybe it won't. Maybe the thing is, you don't know the guy that you're up against, right? Might be a fucking third Dan Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? Okay, he might be one of the family.
I'll tell you, when I got to the final, mate, he must have put on about 200 pounds. He looked massive. I was like, damn.
I went when I was doing jiu-jitsu years ago. I once went to what we thought was a local tournament. We went up from Salisbury and worked up to Mansfield.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be like the European Opens or something like this, right? And back then, I don't know whether it still is, right? It was all done on weight. It wasn't done
Yeah,
on
it is.
belt. So
Yeah.
you could have a yellow belt against a black belt if you're the same weight. And I was the second heaviest person there, right? But I was only 14 stone at the time, right? But the heaviest person there was like 19 stone, and he was massive. He walks out on the mat, and he's so big, it fucking goes dark. and I absolutely shat myself. I did win it. I won it with a nip on by sheer fluke, right? But you had the same
It
thing
wasn't a
applies.
fluke,
No,
though, was
right,
it?
here
It
we
wasn't
go.
a fluke.
Yeah.
Wasn't a fluke.
well,
You've
you know
been
what,
trained in it,
I
and you
put-
pulled a good move.
I put it
You
on
looked at him and went, I got this.
I put it on my positive list, right? But on this occasion, it was a fluke, right? I think I fell over and he happened to come with me. But the answer is exactly the same, and this is why this is so, I wouldn't say easy, but so simple, right? Whether you're trying to catch a fish, whether you're trying to go out on a date, whether you're trying to get a new job, it's the same thing, okay? Focus on what you can do and do what you can do to the best of your ability, right? And you always win. Because the guy on the mat next to you might end up being a third Dan, right? And you can't expect, as a brown belt, you can't expect to defeat a third Dan who's been doing it 20 years.
Rob, do you think it's just a case of just being in that moment more often? You need to keep experiencing that to just get used to it as well.
If it's your first comp or your first time any sort of comp or fishing or going out on a date or going for a job, spend some time beforehand visualizing it.
Yeah.
Right, and if you visualize it well, okay, as in you picture it, the smell. When Dan was talking just now about that, the fish he was talking about, he could see those birds in the trees, right?
Yeah.
You could smell the freshness of the grass and the dew on the grass, right? You're really recreating that. You're being there. If you do that a few times before let's call it an interview, then the interview's not new. You've done it 3 or 4 times already. You've prepared for it by rehearsing it in your mind. There was research done at Cambridge about 10 years ago. They put some scanner stuff on someone and got them to play a competition game of badminton, I think it was. And then they got the same person to go and sit in an MRI scanner and imagine playing badminton, and the scans were identical.
Wow.
Right? So if you rehearse it in your mind, if you're rehearsing...
So are you saying that I don't have to actually find Nicole Scherzinger?
No, not at all.
I can just think about it and I'm there. That's a great thing, lads, for all the boys that like a little bit of al fresco playing with yourself when you're fishing. That's another great reason to go night fishing.
Yeah, you don't want to build yourself up too much.
Use your imagination, boys. Don't put your phone on. Don't put your phone on.
They can come borrow Pete Regan's frog from the table as well.
Yeah, they might need that. Yeah.
So next time, if you're in a comp or anything for the first time, okay, and what happened on that occasion was, because it was new to you,
That's it. Yeah.
You allowed it to be kind of a shock.
Yeah.
You know, right. Or breaking your rod for the chap you're talking about was a shock. Okay, if you've rehearsed that in your mind, lying in the bath one night, thinking about I'm in this comp tomorrow. I'm going to be calm, I'm going to be relaxed, I'm feeling really good, I'm in flow, I'm doing this stuff, I'm okay about it. The smell of the mats, and all these sweaty people in their gis and all this kind of stuff, right? And the noise of the crowd, blah, blah, blah. If you've rehearsed that a few times, it's not a shock. If you've ever seen Red Bull pilots practicing or go to a paramotor competition, Google paramotor competitions, right? Particularly world champs, you'll see guys running around with their arms out behind the hanger, going right, left,
Visualising.
and then
Yeah,
go right,
that's it, yeah.
and then going to do this and that. They're rehearsing it.
Ayrton Senna used to do that.
Yeah.
He'd sit in his car, wouldn't he?
Left,
Before he got,
left,
and he was the first person to really visualise the whole lap in his mind.
Yeah. So it's not new when
Yeah.
you go and do it. Therefore, it's not a shock. You're prepared.
Yeah.
And also, if you rehearse it, you can foresee any possible... If you rehearsed being at a particular place when you're fishing and you knew there was a snag, you could rehearse what you would do if the fish got the line near that snag.
Often we don't do that, and then the fish gets in that snag, and the next time to pull harder or change the angle of the rod or let the fish run a bit further past it and guide it round. But if you can, like when I set my rods up, I think, where am I going to net this fish? If it goes left, where am I going to net it? If it goes right, where am I going to net it? Where should my nets be? And I lost one recently. Because I hadn't done that properly, and I'd only put one net up, and there should have been I'd take 2 nets with me. There's one rolled up in the bag, and if it'd just been the right hand side of the swim, I would have stepped over my rods and walked right, and probably wouldn't have lost it, because it went to go through my lines, and I went to pull it out of the way so I could use that net and pull the hook out.
Yeah.
And then you're like, and it was a big one.
So you could have rehearsed all of that.
Could have rehearsed, and I normally do, but I didn't on that occasion. And it cost me dear.
Yeah. Having said that, Toby, I just want to put one caveat on that. If you go into a comp and the guy you're standing opposite is called Gracie, no amount of preparation is going to make any difference. Yeah? cut yourself some slack.
Is he good, is he? Is he like the best?
The whole family invented it, basically.
Really?
It's their game, mate. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, mate.
Right.
Yeah, that is that's a pack up and go home job. That.
Lovely to meet you. Have a nice day.
Great time. Yeah.
Taxi.
I like
I don't
my
think
face
I will.
exactly where it is
I'm
on the
happy
front
to come
of my
second
head.
here.
Yeah. So Rooney, what was it like winning your first match? Was it a gradual process? Did you have to keep getting, maybe second, third place before you actually
I haven't won one yet, Si. No, joking. No, joking. My first ever match I won was the first ever match I fished. So
what?
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
And is that because you weren't? There was no pressure on yourself to perform.
Yeah, this was like when I was probably 12, 13 years old. We used to go to a venue called Woodlands View, which is in Worcester, and I used to fish there every week with my uncle. I used to go and stay with my uncle every weekend to go and fish. One day on the river, one day on a commercial. Commercials were new then as well. And we used to fish a maggot feeder with a worm on the end, and that was basically it. And there was this new lake called Owls Lake, and it had an island, and there was little cuttings in the island, and if you could get in there, you caught a carp.
Right.
And basically the match was horrendous. The pressure had totally got to me. Bearing in mind there was probably 7 juniors on this match, and the first prize was a Shakespeare umbrella. So I really wanted to win this umbrella. And I forgot to put my reel. I got a new reel. My uncle brought me a new reel for the match, which was a bad thing because it had back wind. My reel before didn't. It just had a clutch. and I wanted to use this back wind, but obviously when it was sat on the rod rest, it kept turning around and the line kept tangling. So anyway, I'm in a tangle like this after a really good cast into this hole. Next thing, I've got one on. I've got a fish on, and it's a right old mess. My uncle's got line everywhere. We're trying to get it in. Got the carp in. It was about 4 pound. I was over the moon. Buzzing, chucked it straight in the hole again and caught another one. And I weighed 2 carp for about 7 pound and won the match. Couldn't believe it. But that was my first ever experience. But I was totally hooked then. You know, I had my picture in the calf, and I'd won a Shakespeare umbrella. That was it, mate. Done. That's me.
That's big for the self-esteem, isn't it? When you're 12 years old to win something first time like that.
And to be there with my uncle as well, which was someone who took me every weekend. And further on down the line, it was obvious what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to fish for England and do better things. And that was his little thing, how he pushed me.
Right.
And
you have fished for England?
I've represented England a few times, yeah. Not as many as I wanted, but...
perfectionism.
Yeah, we
Perfectionism.
It
right
slips
there.
out, Rob, doesn't it?
Perfectionism. See
Well,
that?
no,
Not as many as I wanted. Process your positives, mate.
See, to me,
you fish for England. How many anglers out there would love to say they'd fish for England once?
Yeah.
You have represented the country.
Putting it into perspective.
Yeah.
You're the best in the country at that discipline.
Yeah.
The best in the country, and you're representing your country as a result.
I fished with the England team.
And you bunged a few quid to the geezer.
Sort him out, He wanted a few guru feeders, so it's well easy to get in. No, on a serious note, I never fished a world championships. I fished internationals, home internationals and stuff like that, usually part of the B team, not quite in the A team. And I've been part of winning world championship team, so I've got gold medals, but I haven't actually sat on the bank for that gold medal. So for me,
what, have you been a runner or something?
I've been like the they call it the sixth man basically, so the one that didn't get picked, the one that has to put on the running jacket. And what
are you doing as a result of being a runner?
So in the England feeder team, if you were number 6, you were bait boy basically. So you'd prepare the bait for everyone, you'd take the pressure off everyone.
And what happens if you didn't do that?
The team wouldn't. It'd be carnage. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So you're a valuable member of that same
and everyone
team.
tells me that.
And did you feel like that?
Right,
no, felt
but
terrible.
You still don't, do you?
No, I felt like shit. Being honest, because I wanted to be on that bank. And that week we won it in Ireland, for example. I'd been on the bank because our manager had stepped off the box, go and have a fish. Got me involved, and I was doing really well. I thought, he's going to change his mind. He's going to put me in, even though I knew I wasn't fishing. But I believed in myself that much that I knew what to do. But when it comes to picking the bank runners and stuff, because there was obviously helpers and stuff there, I was a sixth man. Everyone wanted me as a bank runner, so that sort of made me feel good about myself.
Another positive.
Yeah, another positive. Yeah. And I was really proud to run the bank for the people that I run for. And I knew the situation, so it was quite an easy situation to manage and do it. But when I got given the gold medal at the end, I felt like shit, because it wasn't for my angling ability. It was for me being basically a bait boy and running the bank.
For you being an essential and integral part of the team.
Yeah.
I understand how you feel, because I would have felt like that back in the day.
I did.
Now I wouldn't have done.
No.
Now, no way.
See, now
I wouldn't have done. I would have valued the part I had to play.
Yeah.
And just worked on what have I learned and what can I apply to next time. So next time I'm sitting on that box.
Yeah. So for me now, in the back of my head, I've got unfinished business, but I'm not in the position at the moment with my angling and the time in my life to put the effort in to be at that level.
Well, you can't sacrifice the time with the family to do it. So it's not the effort.
Yeah.
You could put the effort in if you had the time to do it, but you're not prepared to sacrifice, and that's what a lot of anglers do. Is they sacrifice the rest of their life in the pursuit of a massive carp or winning a match or whatever, don't they? They do.
Yeah,
they all talk about the amount of sacrifice involved, and unfortunately, that's where the word or the words fishing widow comes from, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they're always losing out to the guy going fishing. But like Daryl. You wouldn't even know Daryl had kids a lot of the time.
No.
Because when he's there, he's so utterly focused on catching as many as he can catch. It feels like he's just a single guy living on his own. Now, I see glimmers of it, of him talking to him and all that sort of thing in between. But the actual Daryl applying himself, he's just at it.
Focused to do a job.
Hammer and tongs, and that takes something to be that.
It does.
That single-minded, that takes something. But I'm pleased to say with Daryl, he's met a lovely girl in Natalie. They've got 3 lovely kids now, and he's he's got that perspective, and he doesn't fish at the level that he used to fish at all the time now, but he's still smashing them.
Yeah.
You know, he's still Daryl.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
I mean, a lot of people look up to Daryl, don't they? Is it?
they should.
Is it
They should.
Yeah.
absolutely? But I mean, is it a good thing to model yourself on other people, Rob? And try?
Yeah. I mean, if what you're after is success in a particular area, you look at the people that do it really well. But also you want to mitigate that with how much you're willing to sacrifice to do it. So if Fred is winning all the time, but he's not spending any time with his wife and kids, right? And you say, look, I want to spend time with my wife and kids.
Yeah, and his missus leaves him as a result of it or something.
Then don't
happens.
still aim
Yeah.
for that, you know, because that's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Aim a little bit lower. You don't have to be number one to feel good.
We try, and all the way through at Korda, we've tried to promote balance.
Balance, yeah.
You know, have a balanced life. Have a job. You know, have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever. You know, go on holiday aside from fishing. Throw yourself into your fishing as well, but have a balance. And these people that we call them bank tramps that just live on the bank, live on the dole. The only time they're off the lake is Thursday morning or whatever when they have to go and collect their dole. You know, sell a bit of weed on the bank, blah de blah. You know, and they just live in one swim and they bore them out, as we call it. We would not sponsor a bank tramp in a million years. We've got anglers who are full-time anglers. Daryl's a full-time angler. Tom Stokes is a full-time angler. But they fish with the intensity and they know to get off the bank and go and live another part of life in between to give them to maintain the hunger that they've got to
Have
keep
you
going.
personally ever given those guys a proper talk? You know, explain
No, I haven't.
that
No,
to them
I haven't. I haven't with anybody. But I've said to Tom Stokes, I'm really pleased that you're getting off the lake, even though you don't have to, and going home and recharging the batteries and seeing the parents and going out with the mates at the weekend because he's been a weekend angler all his life. He said in his podcast, didn't he? Like people stopped asking him to go to things because he'd never ever go. 'Cause he wouldn't go to a wedding of his best mate. He'd rather be fishing because the moon phase is right and it's going to get cold.
And then of course you're in a prime position then for burnout anyway, aren't you?
Yes,
because you're putting all of your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
All of your socialization, all of your goals, all of your objectives, everything is in one thing.
But Tom still had this job at the furniture company, which one of the things. Well, I employed him off the back of his podcast. So I'd never met him in my life. He did his podcast. He was so infectious, so passionate about it. The smile on his face and the zing in his voice. It was like, it just made me want to go fishing. And every single aspect of his fishing, every single lake, every single fish he was fishing for, it didn't matter how big it was, he was the same. And I said to Damien, I want to employ this bloke. He said, well, I've got in touch with him about sponsoring. I went, no. I want him to work for us. He has got it, mate, you know.
Yeah.
But he said in his podcast, he'd deliver furniture and he'd pull a sofa or something out the way or a bed out the way to deliver something and it was all dirty underneath and he would hoover the floor for the old girl.
That stood out for
me. And it's like above and beyond. He's not getting paid for it. He's doing it to do a lovely thing for that customer.
Conscientious.
Conscientious and putting maximum effort into the job he was doing no matter what it was. And I thought that I want to employ that bloke as much because of that as it was because of his fishing, you know. And now he can be a full-time angler, but he doesn't fish 7 days a week. And it's really nice to see that he's realised that having that balance still is going to keep him hungry as an angler and keep him doing it and keep the longevity. And I've never had to say anything to anybody, but I did say to Stokesy, I'm really pleased you've said that, mate, because if it had gone on too long, I want you to be representing us forever, not for 5 years or 10 years, forever, you know. And I want you to be as hungry as you are now and as passionate as you are forever. So having other things in your life will maintain that. And it's very, very... I know Terry Earn, I hear about Terry through people that are close to him being absolutely... He's like one of the legends of carp fishing. He's one of my angling heroes, massively look up to him. Never been in a relationship. All he's got is angling. And when it's absolutely shit and all the rivers are flooded and it's pissing with rain, I know that he has down days, down weeks at home where he can't get out. And because he's got nothing else, you know, and he lives in a beautiful house. I've seen pictures of it. He's done it all through carp fishing and he's still one of my angling heroes. But it's everything is fishing, everything. And I think having that balance... You know, I know. I think he does other things now, doesn't he? Do stuff with birds and stuff like that as well. He's got other sort of interest outside of angling. I think that's really important to maintain that hunger. It's really, really important.
Yeah, I think this role model thing as well, you can get a distorted view of what certain people are actually like, can't you? Because like I say, some of these people that are spending so much time on the bank,
they're like the heroes of angling, but when you meet them, like, I do not want to live that bloke's life.
No, you don't want to be that person.
Brown teeth, looking like a tramp, and he's caught all these amazing fish, but I might do 100 nights fishing in a season on probably 5 or 6 different venues. He's done 300 nights on the same lake, looking at the same bit of water for them 300, and he's caught something incredible, and he still had to angle well to do it. I don't want to live that life, mate.
But in carp fishing as well, you lose perspective as well because you have to sit around potentially a long time waiting for bites and fish. You've got some people that sorry, what was I going to say there? You've got some people that they would be better off focusing on being consistent rather than just looking at people's results. It can be so result orientated that people can become blinkered and accept that you just got to sit there and not do anything.
They don't see the general public only see the end result.
Exactly.
They don't see the passing of time and the amount of times they're in their bivvy, stoned out of their brains again and again and again, just to pass that time that's necessary to catch that fish. And that ain't cool. That ain't.
But people would be better off learning to be consistent.
Yeah, so that's a very good point, right? I used to play tennis with this guy, and I was a much better tennis player, but I always lost.
What, you were better than him?
Yeah, and I said, how come you keep winning? Clearly I'm a better tennis player than you. What's going on? And he says, Rob, he says, I never try to win a point. All I focus on is getting the ball back over the net.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm trying to win. I'm trying to reach my goal and smash it down there and do this and doing that. And he was just kept waiting for me to make mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
And all he did was just try and get the ball over the net. I started to be more like him when I started to win games.
Carp fishing, it's difficult to measure consistency. Do you find that with match fishing as well? That can you get a gauge of how consistent you are actually fishing?
Yeah, in yourself you can.
How can you be consistent though, Simon? Because it's down to the draw and the weather and everything else. You can't.
But the way you consistently prepare and
an example is
effort you put in.
That's the example. Consistency comes with effort. You see Steve Ringer, for example. He will have a match result in the paper every week, but he's probably fished 3 or 4 matches that week. Tom, Dick and Harry's fish one because they're with their family all weekend. They get one day out. They'll have an opportunity where they get that. But the consistency through the media is those people are always in the thing because they're doing it all the time. Yeah. They're totally committed.
You're only seeing the successes.
Yeah. Whereas like Steve, for an example, we're fishing a venue at the moment called Ferry Meadows, and it changes every single year. It's got a river in and out of it. It's very shallow. It's bream fishing. They're either there or they're not. So, and Steve, for example, went there 10 times with not a result. Next 3 times he went, sorted it out. First. No one remembers the 10 times he's been and done that effort. But, other people don't get that opportunity. Yeah. But he dedicates his time to doing that to get the result.
Exactly. But he's designed his life so he's making that opportunity for himself.
He's a professional, isn't he?
The other people are not prepared to make the sacrifices required to have that. They could if they wanted to. Yes. Anybody can if they want to. Yeah. If they, but they choose not to.
Yeah, but
they get angry about it even though they've chosen to not do it.
Yeah. They're jealous about it, and they put themselves in that position on that match day that they need to beat him or to win the match, when realistically it'd be like trying to run the 100 metres against Usain Bolt after you'd practiced all year, isn't it?
I suppose you beat him as well, Rob, have you?
Well, do you know, I did have a word with him once, and I said, how come...
See you at the finish line.
I can't even drive as fast as he can run.
No, mate. You know what? I tried to run on the treadmill.
I was quite good at tennis. It was a fucking long time ago.
I believe you, Rob. I believe you. I do believe you.
Did you beat that guy in the end?
Yeah.
Yes, well done.
No, if beat him to a pulp. Beat him to a pulp with jiu-jitsu because he was really good at that as well.
Tangled in the net.
But what was it? You throw me now, mate. What was I going to say? What was I going to say? I can't.
It was about a gift. You got a gift or something?
No, I'm going to go and get that in a second. What is Steve Ringer's mindset like? Is he like that and then up like that, or is he really up and down?
No, for me, Steve, I would probably say Steve and Andy Bennett are on the same wavelength. They're very controlled.
These are two of the best.
Yeah.
Okay. Two of the best.
Yeah.
When you say controlled, do you mean calm or do you mean controlled?
They don't make mistakes because they're so in
They
tune
don't
with
flap.
their fishing. They don't flap. They prepare, and they just.
If you listen to Andy Bennett talking, it's very soothing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and Steve's a little bit different. Steve will steal every little bit of information from the worst angler in the world to the best angler in the world to put it all in one pot, quantify it, and then make his own decision. But he's so confident in his own ability. Well, they both are, but they're out doing it all the time.
But do they have down times? Do they have down periods where they're struggling or not?
Yeah, I mean, Steve went through 10 matches with nothing, you know.
But mentally, I mean, does it get to him, or does he just crack on?
Andy Bennett, no way, nothing phases him.
Right,
he's just like a machine.
So what would Andy do then if he went 10 matches and nothing?
He'd go the 11th match and win it. That's what he'd do. He would do,
Yeah.
and he does. Andy doesn't win everything. He's very consistent, and Andy makes a living out of fishing. So he obviously he gets looked after by us and other sponsors, but he has to make a living out of it at the end of the day. So
he coaches a lot as well, doesn't he?
He coaches, and he fish three matches a week where he knows I'm probably going to add some money to the pot this week,
right?
And then he'll fish a qualifier or whatever at the weekend where he's trying to get into the big matches, and that's how he rolls.
I'm going to go and get my gift.
Go and get your gift.
Rob, just to give you, sorry, Rooney, to give you a perspective on Andy,
right?
He very kindly offered to help me with one of my uni projects.
Okay.
Where I went down to
Partridge, you went.
That's it. Yeah. Went to interview him. I did sports journalism at uni, so I went to interview him on his match. He spent the best part. I think might have even been the last hour, which for a match is a vital part of the match.
Yeah.
He wasn't even looking at the fucking lake. So he was turned round, giving me all his undivided attention, quotes, photos, trying to help me with everything like that, telling me about the lake and other people fishing. All the while, he was casting, baiting up, pulling fish in and netting them whilst talking to me at the same time. It was unbelievable. And I said to him, how do you think you're getting on? He said, I'm doing all right. I think I might be third, second. He obviously blitzed the entire match. Yeah, and he won it. It was unbelievable.
That's some focus, isn't it?
Oh, it was incredible.
Oh, we got some great gifts here, Dan.
Oh, what have we got here?
Wow, what's this? With Andy as well, is that consistent with everything else that he does in his life as well?
Yeah, Andy's probably the most chilled out person that I know, but he's got, again, a great family around him. He's very close to his brother. He's got lots of good friends. His partner's brilliant, very supportive, and he can dedicate his life to fishing without any earache, any problems, and he makes a comfortable living out of it. So he's content in the situation. And the same with Steve. Steve obviously fishes at a higher level because he's a fish world champ, so he puts himself in more pressured situations. But like for example, when we go on a world champs practice, there's probably 7 people trying to get in a 5-man team that week. So everyone's trying to fish at the highest level in practice to impress the manager.
Yep.
Steve will sit on the venue and he will try everything to cancel everything out so he know what to do on that venue. So he will find the formula. And I've watched it so many times. He will come last in most practices. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
And that's because
that's the Thomas Edison, isn't it?
Yeah. But he knows, like, the other 6 people in that team don't know if they're fishing on the day. He knows that he's going to be sat there on that day because he knows that he's good enough and they can't not have him in the team.
Right.
There's never been a situation where his place has been on the line because he's so consistent and he's just so in tune with it. That is him. He's a world champion match angler.
That's that flow thing we were talking about earlier on.
Yeah.
So he can be talking to you over here while fishing over here at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's phenomenal. Whereas if I'd be sat there, for one, I'd probably be nervous because obviously who you're surrounded by and you're trying to get in the team and you'll push yourself until you make a mistake and then all of a sudden you're not in that team. And that's what happens quite regular, and it kills you. But Steve's steady away and he knows that I'll work it out, boys, because someone needs to work this out because we want to win it as a team at the weekend and the rest of them are fighting each other for a position. and that's how it is. But he's so cool with that. And his brother's the same. It's crazy.
You're not finding with carp fishing as well that people haven't got enough downtime, so they spend so much time on the bank that they haven't got time to really. They don't give themselves enough time to do other things.
I don't think that we, as anglers, we talk about the times when we don't catch enough between ourselves. We only talk about the times when we do catch.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really valuable. What you learn from not catching. You know, and I've got a lessons learned file for each lake I'm fishing. I've got a lessons learned, and if it's like Danny Stroud said, check out that swim on the end of the point, and I didn't check it out, and someone caught a 43 pounder from there, I'm like, if Danny Stroud says check a swim out, you div, you know. And then so next spring, if Danny Stroud says I'd have a look there, I will be having a look there.
You document everything.
Yeah, most things, and I read it back before I start the next
Write it
campaign.
down or record it.
Write it down on my phone. Yeah, that's worth.
But that again
millions.
is a growth mindset, isn't it?
Yeah.
Never thinking you know everything or you know enough.
No. Yeah.
Always looking for more information.
This bloke is like the most. Danny Stroud is like the most unassuming. Talks it down. Everything else, he's like Terminator. Right, and he's in the hot swim, and I'm sort of waiting to get in there the next day. I said, Dan, do you mind if I watch you get out, which is cast out? Mind if I watch you get out? He went, why? I said, I want to see someone who's really bloody good at it, doing it. He's like, shut up. I'm like, Dan, you're the bollocks, mate. I want to just see you do it because. And he's like, yeah, all right, weirdo. You know, like that. You're Danny Fairbrass. You know, and I'm like, mate, you never stop learning. Never.
He was right about the weirdo bit.
He was right about it. Yeah, he watched me pulling the lime out of his bottle of Corona that he had last night to separate the food waste from the recycling to go in. I've got a pair of pliers specially to pull out bits of lime. Yeah. I hate waste. I hate waste.
I locked my bedroom door last night. Needless to say.
Yeah, but I was already in there.
So moving on to the gift, I mean, this looks.
I could see you like a little kid at Christmas, Simon. Look, you are not to use these.
I was going to say, thanks for bringing my rods in, Dan.
Well, you don't need these. So.
Right, so these are my 13-foot, 3 3/4 Infinity Magnum tapers when Damien and I first did the redesign on them. Full-length Duplon handles, high standoff Fuji SICs all the way down. They are the set of rods that I won the British Championships with Damien with.
Wow.
So that
that is an awesome.
And I wanted to put them into some sort of cabinet or something here. So to give you guys as a gift, I know that. If you're on Wendy for just a bit longer, it will get done. Okay, I know.
I will politely ask her.
Okay, all right. And if she gets a time once you get off her to get the case together,
I'm so sorry,
it'd be lovely to have. It'd be lovely to have this stuff either in here or down in the lobby or what have you.
Yeah,
and
lovely. Mate.
Next to them, this is the match where we won the qualifier, and me and Damien, and we come out 20th in the draw out of 29, and the favourites were to our left, who come out third, and the second favourites to our right, and we smashed the living daylights out of both of them. I think, I don't know how many pound, I can't even remember, I don't know, 300-400 pound of fish we had over the 48 hours.
Oh dear.
Next door, the previous winners popped a bottle of champagne when they caught the one and only fish they caught for the whole 48 hours. And we had 30, 40 fish, whatever.
We're fishing at range. These rods look quite.
Yeah,
they look quite heavy.
We chose Damien fished on the left and he fished the closest spot, and I fished on the right because I really wanted to use them.
Yeah.
And fish the longest spot. And I still remember you get an hour to start baiting up before the match starts,
Okay.
and we'd bait up. And we'd been over there, worked out all the ways that wouldn't work, like Steve Ringer.
Yeah.
Thought we had the killer method, and I just kept catching small fish, bream, roach, and all that. That was on maize, so we discounted that. And I had to go down to the tackle shop and buy boilies that I get for free. I had to go down and buy them out of the shop at £13 a kilo, which stung, I have to say. Took them back to the lake and worked out a way of catching only carp, and sorted it out. Damien didn't practice, being Damien, and he caught twice as many as me in the final. But it doesn't matter. We still won. And in the lead up to it, you could bait. You had an hour to bait up. So we baited up exactly in the start of the hour, and then 15 minutes later, we put 2 more of those kind of things out on each spot. No splash. Everybody else is like hurriedly getting it. We were already sorted. We had all our rigs tied, everything, and we put our rods out on the whistle. And within about a minute, my right-hand rod had gone, and we were playing the first one of the match. And that is the way it went until the end.
Yeah.
Is that why you won the match then, do you think?
We'd sorted out the tactic. We were an in-between swim, in between 2 brilliant swims that no one wanted, and we smashed both them people. And that means more, actually, probably than winning it.
Yeah, that's mega,
because if we'd been in, we would have had 50% more if we'd been in where the winners were, because it was absolute blackness in front of them with fish. They're just one after the other. Dorsals coming out of the water, and we fished in a little strip in between them, and absolutely smashed it.
Dan, to a layman, this just looks like a fishing rod to me, right?
Right.
Or 4 of them, right?
4 of them, yeah.
Why is this? What's so good about this?
Right. So the technology that comes from Daiwa, which are one of the biggest fishing companies in the world, they use such a high grade carbon material that you can't. It's only produced in Japan, and it's sent from Japan to England to be rolled in. Is it Glasgow where their place is? Yeah. So the taper of the rod, so how quickly it goes from fat to thin, is really fast. So it's fat quite a long way down and goes thin quickly at the end. So you've got loads of power in the rod and a very fast recovery, which means when it bends double when you cast it, but it snaps back straight again really quickly. So the line flies through the rings because the rod's already straight. Yeah. And they're really, really light, although they're slightly thicker in the butt section where it says infinity there. They're slightly thicker there than other rods. And everyone loves a slim carp rod because it looks nicer on the rest. I want a rod that performs brilliantly, and it basically, they're amazing to cast, they're amazing to play fish on, and they're the rods that we redeveloped and ended up having my initials on them. So they were Infinity DFs, which was a massive honour for a global company. Did Daiwa
like come to you and ask you to do that, or was it a collaboration between you both?
No, we said to them, we redesigned
the DF range of rods is just so.
It's kept that factory going. They've opened the ability to me. Longbows and Infinities with the DF thing has kept that factory going. It would have shut. That manufacturing business would have shut because that was their biggest selling range of rods, 2 ranges of rods by country mile, and it's because we took amazing technology and made it look like it had been custom built. So you'd sent it off to someone who'd made a beautiful job of it. Their rods were a bit gaudy, too flash, airbrushing up the rod. You don't pay 350 quid for a rod with airbrushing up it. It just looked like a noddy. Like you just started doing it, So we took everything off of it and
I've got to take my rod back. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Have you got a guru?
We've got to take you, haven't we? You've got to go with him first, and get 50 bites in a day, and then come camping with me and maybe catch one. But we'll eat well.
Okay.
You'll get covered in
that
muck
already
and
sounds
crap
weird.
And all that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other rod was one of those 13-foot rods, but it's cut down to 12-foot. And that was the basis of all of the spod rods, which cast this because it's stiffer, heavier. Okay. If you cut 6 inches off the top and the bottom of that, it makes it stiffer.
Okay.
Yeah. That was the rod that they made for me 2 or 3 years before they came out. That all of their spod rods since have been based on.
Okay.
And it's still got all the bait all stuck up the butt section. That's spod mix stuck up the butt section of that rod. So
there's a real legacy with those rods.
There's a real legacy with those.
I think that way of building a rod can only be done with that grade of carbon as well, can't it? To that extent, I don't think with lower grade carbon you can produce such a rod. So
no, you
it's
can't.
Quite a special bit.
It's a really special. And what they normally do, they're slightly thinner. There's loads of that. The wall thickness of that rod is wafer thin, whereas a lot of the other rods is almost to the centre. It's carbon because the grade of carbon's so much poorer. They have to put a load more material to create the same strength.
Okay.
So this for a tournament caster could snap that rod, but the average guy will cast it 1,000,000 times further. But a tournament caster is a breed unto themselves. They're just animals. And there's only about 10 of them in the country that are like it. Everybody else, normal human beings, that's better.
Right.
You know?
Gotcha.
No, these rods are different because it's a matte finish, isn't it? And you're not seeing the weave on the rods either, like on.
No, well, the weave is cosmetic. The weave, that's all it is. It's not. Maybe it adds a little bit of strength around the outside, but mostly it's cosmetic, and that's all about performance. Don't put anything on it that isn't enhancing the performance.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing there like the high standoff rings, which we don't use anymore.
I like those rings.
I love
They're
them.
a bit like the carbon ones, aren't they?
I should have kept these and started fishing with them again. But it keeps the line away from the blank, so the line's not touching the blank and slowing down. That's what high standoff rings are for.
Do you get less frap ups with those?
I don't get any frap ups anyway.
Yeah.
Frap ups when the line comes off the reel too fast and it wraps around the first ring, that big one. And
I've had a few of those.
because my line is on perfectly. And the way I cast is progressive, so I get faster and faster and faster as I go through, rather than it being a snatch really quick. My cast is progressive. There isn't that immediate explosion. I'm not the best caster, you know. I'm in probably the top 10%, but I can cast far enough for all the lakes that I fish, and that's all I need to do. Casting becomes they have tournaments. It's a sport.
How far can you fish now, then, Dan?
About 150. I reckon effectively, but that's dropping it on this table at 150 and dropping the next rod just to the right.
What
of this
diameter
table.
line would that be with?
030 tapered.
Right.
Yeah. So 030, quite thin line, and basically the way they make it, Rob, is you're very, very thin line which comes off the reel really easy, but it's so thin as you compress the rod, you'd snap it.
Right.
So what they do at the very end, last 10 metres, they make it thicker, so it takes the force of the cast. It's called a shock leader. Yeah. And that then disappears off the rod really quickly and drags that thin line behind it and goes out there.
That's a good idea.
And
That's a nice little interlude.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got this stuff here.
Yeah,
that we're
so
going to
you
get
want
you
me
to
to
sign as
sign
well.
that? And who's this for?
This is a charity called A Bit Out of Cancer that I've been speaking to, and I've spoken to Cancer Research this week following the podcast.
Right.
And
have they seen it then?
Yeah, they've seen it.
Really?
Yeah. But I'm speaking to him on the phone Friday. I'm speaking to the woman on the phone, but the guy Mike has sent them the podcast, so it's Mike that's done this. You can find
Fair
it.
Play, Mike.
Yeah,
Thank
A
you,
Bit Out of
Mike,
Carp,
whoever
A Bit Out of Cancer. You can see it on YouTube and stuff. It's about an 11-minute film,
right?
And it documents why he started all this, and it's a really nice cause. And
I'll
obviously
watch that definitely.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah, do.
But yeah, so I mean, if we can
give us a
if we can
Sharpie
sign
and-
this, and he's going to auction this.
Right, I'm going to get this out of the way for a minute. We'll do this. So I want you boys just to pull it tight in all the corners.
Right, okay.
Football styley, and then I'll sign it. If you just hold on to that corner, Rob.
Here we go. So we.
Push.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then the hat.
The hat is here. Yep. Like I say, it was great timing. I mean, it was ironic timing actually. That
Simon, this is not just going on eBay, is it? On your account.
we won't tell anyone,
thinking
will we?
There it is.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's got copy leads on there, which
bite.
is part of one of his pictures.
So that picture there is him with his dad. His dad died from cancer, I think it was.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, watch the film on YouTube as well, because it's
No, I will.
it's
I will.
good, and they've raised 22 grand
Right.
so
wow.
far.
Has that
But-
gone to cancer research then?
Yeah, that goes to cancer, and like I say, and he's put me in touch with cancer research as well. So it's good stuff, isn't it?
Fair play, yeah,
Yeah,
brilliant.
nice.
There you go, sir.
Okay. I suppose the obvious question with like having a match angler on is the mindset we can use between a match angler and a carp angler,
Yeah.
and what we could learn from each other.
Well, I think it's
You've
proved
got the lid there, mate. I think.
chatting today that it's quite similar, really. I
It
think,
is when I listened to Will Raisin's podcast, I loved it.
yeah,
I loved
he's a
it. It's
legend,
like
yeah,
that
he
having
was.
that book of every single place he's fished and exactly where he had to position the float to get a bite
yeah.
off of a certain fish, and that
And like you, he records it all. He jots it all down.
Love
It's
it,
there
mate.
for
He'd-
next
he'd
time, and
be a mega-
he shares that. With
he'd be a
everyone.
mega carp angler.
Yeah,
he would be a mega.
He does
carp
carpfish,
angler.
Dan. He does
Right,
carpfish,
right.
and he goes and catches big ones.
Yeah, of course he does.
because he's just a detonator, isn't he?
Yeah,
He's
because it's the mindset, isn't it? It's,
yeah,
how he applies himself
So
to it.
I think it is very similar in lots of ways. I would say that with match fishing, obviously it's competition, so results count, whereas results for obviously are just important for you, Dan, and carp anglers, but obviously the results in a match are all on show. that's what you're trying to achieve. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of pressure that
what
comes
we're
from
saying
that.
though is that shouldn't be linked to your self-worth. should
No,
it?
not at all. And
You're
that's,
going for it, trying to win.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you're a good or a bad person
No,
if you win
I
or don't.
think the common problem with probably lots of the guru anglers and lots of match anglers is that they try and juggle everything in life to become the best fisherman. And obviously, you just need to take it for what it is, really, and enjoy it. And it will come naturally. Everyone gets an opportunity with match fishing. There is an element of luck. I know you're not into luck, but there is with the draw.
I'm pleased you said that because because that is, you're at the mercy of
Yeah,
chance,
what peg you've
fate,
got.
whatever.
Yeah,
You're not in control of that. But it's I've given away or stopped using all my lucky charms. Do you take a lucky charm fishing?
Until I listen to your podcast.
Right.
I've got a gonzo which I've had for years.
Right.
And
Really, you ditched it after last.
I don't know why someone brought me a gonzo. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with my nose. But I had it for years, and the first time I had it, I had a good result, so it stayed for that time.
Yeah, but you had a good result because you put it in the right place and you fished with the right bait.
Yeah.
And you
nothing
fished
to do
well.
with
It had
gonzo.
nothing to do with the gonzo, did it?
No. So
and by relying on the gonzo, you're giving away your power and control over your result in the next match.
Totally.
You're giving a little bit away to that.
Totally.
Or to the magpie or whatever. You are, because they have no influence on what you catch.
No.
Yet we all think they do.
I've just had to Google what gonzo is.
Instead of luck,
Have you not seen the Muppets?
He's never watched the Muppets.
Years and years ago.
I don't think you're going to.
instead of
Next
luck,
time you and Wendy have got a bit of time together, whack the Muppets on.
There you go.
Yeah?
right? So
Never getting away from
instead
that.
of
Never,
luck,
mate, never.
instead of luck, think
There we
about,
go. There
think
it is.
about
Look,
things.
look.
Think about things that
I
are
don't see the resemblance. Sorry, Rooney.
no.
what are you saying?
Think about things that are predictable and unpredictable.
Yeah.
Rather than forget the word luck. Don't use it in your vocabulary. Things that are predictable. You getting ready. You getting the right materials, the right rod, the right place, the right run.
Yeah.
Things that are unpredictable. There may not be any fucking fish in there today.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
In the
It's
swim,
not
yeah,
luck.
yeah.
It's not luck. Predictable things, unpredictable things. What you can do is make sure all the predictable things, the stuff you can control, you do really, really well. And there are unpredictable things, like whether you get that job or not. They might have wanted a girl for the job. In fact, 1,000 people go for the job, they might not want a girl. They wanted someone taller because shelf stacking was part of it. That's not your fault.
Smaller nose.
Well, they certainly would have wanted someone with a smaller nose.
Yeah.
So think of predictable and unpredictable rather than things I can do and luck.
Yeah, I was questioning Gonzo for quite a while because I hadn't won for ages.
Right.
So, but obviously after listening to the podcast, I knew he had to go on the shelf. But no, honestly, it's you're dead right in what you say. I take it for what it is now. I go and enjoy it. Like for example, last summer we do a festival at a place called Barston, which is a venue we all like to fish. It's quite sociable, but there's still like the element you want to win. Steve fishes it. The top lads fish it, and I hadn't been doing so well for a little while. I've been putting a lot of pressure on myself, trying to compete. It's quite hard being on the bank as well, and I'm sure Dan finds it as well when you work for a fishing company because people are on your case the whole time.
Yeah. I'm lucky because I fish the same place over and over. So
Yeah.
the first couple of times, it's like bunny in the headlights. Like even guys that have been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
Once you've made a cup of tea with them and, you've thrown a few F's and C's around and, all that sort of thing, and they know you're just a normal bloke. Once you've met everyone on the syndicate, then you're just one of the boys then.
That's it. You
but
fit
you're
in.
meeting new people
I'm
every
I'm
single
going
time.
places.
aren't
They're on
you?
you as soon as your car pulls up in the car park, and it can go two ways with me. So someone will come and sing your praises or something, or someone's had a problem with something. And if someone's had a problem with something, that's me done then, because my whole day is thinking about that bloke that I've let down, and that's just me. And I really struggle.
But you
with
haven't
that.
let him down, though, have you?
No, but
a product has failed.
But in my head,
but you haven't, though, have you? You think you have, but you haven't let him down.
Yeah.
You've done the absolute best of your ability. A product has failed. Then maybe there's something to be learned, and you can, mate, if we'd known about that, we would have done something about it. We've all learned from this. We'll sort it out, and we'll send you some more for nothing.
Exactly.
But it's not. It has no bearing on whether you've let him down or not, because you haven't.
No,
you haven't purposely done it, have you?
No, not purposely,
No,
definitely not.
you haven't.
At that time in my head, and obviously they're not quiet when they're saying it, so everyone's like starting to, and you feel under a lot of pressure, and all of a sudden
you put yourself under a lot of pressure.
Well,
you don't fit.
Yeah.
It's not automatic, because I'd go, I'm really sorry, but I'm about to fish a match. I've got to be concentrating on that. Here's my card. or give me your number,
or speak
and
to you
I'll
afterwards.
speak to you. I'll speak to you on Monday when I'm at work because now I'm fishing a match. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
And then just is that okay? And not say anything else, not keep babbling on, and wait for the penny to drop with
Do
them.
the window back
just
up.
look at them, and they'll either go yes or not, and they'll say, mate, if it's not okay, go and use Preston Innovation stuff because I'm here to do this.
Yeah.
And that is my main focus today.
True.
All
Best
right?
best thing to say, best questions was, how do I make it up to you?
Yeah.
And they'll go quiet. Because you're not arguing. They're expecting an argument.
Yeah.
Okay? So you're not going to say, oh, come on. You say, I'm really sorry about that. How do I make it up to you? Because then you're putting the onus back on them, which is positive, to say how you can put it right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I really want a new reel. Fine. Give me your card. I'll sort you out a new reel. And we'll try and make sure it doesn't
Bit
happen
excessive
again.
for a feeder.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
Oh, well, I say reel. I mean a bit of line or
Another
whatever.
feeder or
Yeah.
ten
But
feeders or whatever.
But ask them. Don't say, "Oh, sorry, mate, I'll chuck your feeder."
Yeah.
Ask them because it's like the shaking hands thing. I don't know whether you know this. You see, in football, you remember when you were at school, right? If you've fouled someone, there's been a bit of an altercation, and the ref says, "Right, shake hands." Nobody wants to shake hands, and they don't want to shake hands because they know if I shake hands with you, this is over.
Yeah, this is
fight.
finished.
So I don't want to. I want to smack him. No, shake hands. You know that you're shaking hands, it's over, right? So if you put them on the back foot and say, how do I make it up to you? The moment they say something, anything at all, they've already let go of their angst towards you.
Yeah.
Because now they're thinking, not here's a problem, they think here's a solution. I'd really like some new floats, please, mate. Actually, I'd really like some new floats. Those other ones were crap. Right. No problem, mate. I'll get you some. Do you mind if I now just go and do this?
Yeah.
I'll come and see you afterwards. I'll get you some floats. Oh, brilliant. Thanks very much.
Yeah. That makes
His way's better.
Yeah.
How do I make
We've all learned
It
something
makes
today,
sense.
haven't
But
we?
do you know what I'm coming from? Where so you get in your car on the way to the venue, you're 100% focused, everything's planned, and then someone throws a roadblock at you when you get there.
Yeah.
That's
if you
what I was trying.
if you rehearsed it as well,
Yeah.
If you rehearsed people coming up to you, then you'd be expecting it, and you deal with
I
it
love
better.
chatting to people when people come up to me because it means a lot. And when I walk down the bank and people are setting up their gear and there's loads of the gear that we've designed and invented, you can't beat it. It's better than winning the match.
Yeah.
But when I go fishing, I want to go and enjoy it. And what I was trying to say from that festival last year, because it was lockdown, there wasn't all these millers about. You're in your car, you pulled up, you drew your peg, and you went to your zone on your own, and you were totally focused.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-day festival with top guys. I felt no pressure whatsoever, and I really enjoyed it. And I won my section 2 days, second the third day, and won it overall. So and it was because that element was taken out of the equation. That thinking someone's going to collar me in the car park, or my focus was broken.
Okay, so we only get anxious or stressed about things that we believe we can't handle.
Yeah,
So the moment you've got a line to tell them, or the moment you think you can handle it, you'll stop wearing it.
yeah, you've got that answer to.
Yeah,
the
I know
question.
what's going to happen if someone says anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this or this or this.
And half the time, it didn't even happen.
But
Yeah.
it's about replaying it like I did with the melanoma and he said to me when he first started coaching me a year and a bit ago,
Yeah.
he said, what you have to do is put yourself in the position of getting the worst news imaginable, right? The oncologist tells you it's in your brain and you've got 6 months. Would you cope with would you cope with that news? How would you react?
Yeah.
And I actually wrote it down, and it's like, I'd make sure everything's in place for Sophie and Violet. I'd still be at work, hammer and tongs, And once you know that you can cope with something like that, you stop worrying about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the
and
fear of
that's-
not coping.
But it's
Yeah.
it's the
Out of
externalising it,
control. Yeah.
writing it down, or saying it to yourself, or whatever, getting it out of your head.
Yeah.
That I found that really, really powerful. So if you said, if somebody came up to me and was unhappy with a product, I know that I would the worry about it will probably go away.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, how many people go to France and can't sleep the night before because apparently they're so excited, right? I don't think it is they're so excited. They're so worried
Yeah.
that they're not going to get the draw they want, and it's going to be a crappy week and everything else.
Yeah.
But they're turning it over and over. They're trying to control an uncontrollable thing, which is the draw, but by thinking about it.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, if I oversleep, what will happen? I'll get on a later train. Everybody will wait for me. There'll still be a draw. But out like a
Do you notice the difference
like
between lakes
Yeah.
where you're going to draw a swim then and lakes where you
No, but
fish where you want?
it's all trips to France because there's so much expectation because you've waited all year to go and fish for these massive fish and everyone wants to catch all of them. You know, there's so much expectation. You put pressure on yourself. You know, but if you're like, if I come out last in the draw, what's going to happen? I'm going to fish my nuts out. I'm going to pick 2 swims. If
you come out with the worst draw,
again.
right, it's a bigger opportunity to do better.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, well, if we've one of our lakes, one of the embryo lakes up at Baston, right? The members, this is not me because I've not fished it yet. It's a mega lake with loads of really big fish, and it's invitation only. It's our only one that's invitation only, and they're not all my mates. They're friends of friends of friends, you know, because I haven't got 80 mates that all go carp fishing, you know, and if you catch one in one of the swims where the fish are all the time, they call it the turkey shoot.
Right.
You've caught one out the turkey shoot, right? If you catch one out of open water away from all the sunken trees, you've caught a dodo. Yeah. So a dodo is worth 3 turkeys.
Yeah, there you go.
So you know, and someone will put a picture up and they go, "Any turkeys going on there, bruv?" And they're going, "No, that's a dodo," and they're like, "Fair play," you know. So
that does level the playing field.
It does mean more to catch one from open water at Baston Big Lake means more. It does
Like a
mean
handicapping
more.
system.
You know, and it's friendly banter. They're all mates. They're all
Yeah.
on a WhatsApp group together. It's friendly banter between. There's no malice in it at all, but it's hilarious. And then new people come on and they're like, "What's a dodo? What's a turkey?" They just like, it has to be explained, and they're like, "Oh, I get it now. I get it." So it does mean more. If you catch one from an unfancied swim, then it means more. You know.
Have you noticed a difference in? Sorry, this is changing the subject a little bit. Have you noticed a difference in angling ability over the last 20 odd years since you've been putting videos and more information out there, or do you think there is?
Do you know what? Honestly, no.
Right.
I've just been to Norton Disney last week for 2 days bailiffing, and there's still good guys and there's still inexperienced guys who either a closed book and they're not prepared to learn. You try and help them, don't want to know, just do everything. They just want to have to do everything their own way. You can see they're doing it wrong. Try and gently guide them the right way. Not interested. People who are really open. There's so many more people doing it now. I think that yes, probably the average has gone up in that sense, but there are so many people doing it that there is a huge chunk now that are still really out of their depth and really are making the wrong decisions, wasting money, which I can't stand, especially buying our stuff for the wrong purpose. That's why I did the Korda coach, so that we had somebody on the bank that could show them if they wanted to know how to get the best from the kit and to spend their money as wisely as possible, because it's hard-earned cash.
Yeah,
you know. I'll go into people's swims and they've got like 30 pots of hook baits, and it's like, I've got these pop-ups on, and pop-up basically is buoyant and it sits just above the bottom, so a more attractive thing from a sight point of view. But all these pop-ups sunk. So he put them in, and the weight of the hook and everything attached to it, because there was so much metal, it was on the deck. And I'm like, mate, your pop-ups don't even pop up, don't they? Never even dropped it. You got margin that deep. You can just drop it in and see what it looks like. I always do that. Never even done it in his life. That has changed his fishing life. Just checking whether his hook bait actually floats or not. You know,
Dan, I've got a problem with a pop-up. Can we talk about it afterwards?
Yeah, we can talk about it afterwards. Yeah.
So Rob,
actually, Toe would probably be interested in chatting about that.
oh God, he's after you today, Toe.
And it's nice.
Yeah,
to
it
not
feels
be,
good actually. Yeah. So Rob, what do you think's going on there then? Why aren't we learning more then? There's so much information out there.
I think probably it's a bell curve. All right. So there's probably thousands more anglers, but of course you only see the bits that you see. So there's imagine a bell. There's a bell curve, a bit like IQ, right? So IQ is a bell curve. Almost everyone, 98% of people, their IQ is somewhere between 85 and 115. The average at any time being 100. Okay, but there are some people outside of that, and some people this side of it. Okay, but there are always going to be people that push themselves really hard to this side, and people that just, for whatever reason, either don't want help, don't want advice, don't want to get better, don't want to learn. Maybe they don't mind. Maybe they got the money. They don't mind buying the more expensive kit, but not the best kit.
Yeah, I'm not.
But again, you can only do what you can do.
You need to move, mate. He's done 3 days, caught nothing.
Yeah.
They're all over there, mate. I'll help you move. No, I'm all right.
Is that
They'll turn up.
Is that being stubborn?
That's being stubborn. Yeah. It's being stubborn. You know, and just don't want to put the effort in They've set up. They've got a million things to pack up. Even though you're going to help them do it, because then they have to admit they've got it wrong to themselves. And a lot of people can't admit that they've got it wrong to themselves.
Do you think those people? I see it with like not so much match fishermen, but pleasure anglers. That sometimes they just want to be there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
They could be doing it wrong.
Their expectations are low. They're just enjoying being. I think that's great. It's everything to every man. And we haven't, because it'd be bloody hard if everybody put the effort in that I put in.
A lake full of duns.
Do you know what I mean? It would be, and everyone gets their own thing out of it. I just do find it frustrating when you're trying to help people towards catching something. Yeah. And then if that guy then goes on the internet, which does happen, or social media, and slags the lake off.
Yeah, it's rubbish, mate.
It's rubbish when you've tried to help him get a bite. That stings.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the worst scenario,
because it's unfair, isn't it? It's an unrealistic appraisal of what happened during that session.
Yeah.
And he's blamed everybody else but himself, you know.
But again, it's about you've got to tolerate the fact that even though you're the nicest people on the planet and all you want is to help people get better at fishing, not everyone's going to want it.
No,
it's like telling your own child, you wait till Violet's older. You can have your hands full there, right? Okay, and you know that crossing the road this way is going to be the sensible way, but she wants to do it with one eye open and skipping or something.
Yeah.
And some people don't want to be told.
Yeah. No, they don't, and I do completely get that. It doesn't. I don't lose sleep over it.
But you're so passionate about it,
exactly,
that you want to help.
I want them to have a great time.
Yeah.
You know, I want them to have a great time.
So, Rob, to wrap things up, I mean, so as a
I want to talk about something else.
Oh, do you?
How long have we been going?
Well, we're going to get about 2 hours.
Have we?
Yes, about just under 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's leave the other subject for another time.
Is it a whole other subject?
A whole other subject.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
You'll be back then, Rob.
Seems that way.
Yeah.
So have you got some general advice for carp anglers to try and successfully improve their mindset? You read the books and stuff, but is there any advice you'd give?
I think what Dan said about processing the positive experiences or even just the positive thoughts is the very best way of making sure you don't turn into a perfectionist. Okay, you can work really, really hard, but if you're berating yourself, what you're doing is about your self-esteem. So actually, you need to look at that. Okay, because you cannot base your life, you cannot base your self-esteem on whether the fish happen to be biting today or not. That's no good. You could base it if we're being brutal, right? And this is the World Championships. You could base it on your skill set. Right? Because it's a factor in it. Obviously, it's a factor in it, right? So we could say you were shit today because of X, Y, Z, right? Yeah. But you can't base it on whether the fish bite or not. All you can do is all you can do. All you can do is everything you can do, right? The rest of it is unpredictable. Worry about what's predictable. Pat yourself on the back for how hard you try. Not for this, and I don't mean in some silly new modern school way everyone's a winner, Dan. I don't mean that. I mean genuinely, if you've worked hard and you set yourself up really well for this particular experience, particular fishing, then pat yourself on the back. Even if you didn't get the fish, think about that thing about the people going for the interview. How ridiculous would it be if 999 people were feeling low and depressed because they didn't get the job just because actually they wanted someone's taller or shorter or with more hair. They didn't like me because I was bald and looked like an out-of-work bouncer or something. You can't do that. Praise yourself on how much effort you put in. It's effort over outcome. The outcome's a bonus. It's about the effort that you put in.
Oh, that's a good way to wrap things up.
Great way to wrap it, yeah.
That's all anglers as well, not just carp anglers, by the way.
Match
Really.
anglers too.
Okay, guys, thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.